Happy Hump Day, everybody! Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. We are always brought to you by our friends at Les Schwab Tires. Whatever it is you drive, they have the accessories for it. They have the tires for it. They have the wheels for it. Stop by Les Schwab. Tell them OC sent you. The pros there are going to get whatever job you need done. They're going to get it done right the very first time. Scott Mitchell is going to join us on the show. Bear Tournier, very, very much looking forward to our first conversation with the Utah Hockey Club head coach. Unfortunately, their practice schedule and our on-air schedule is often in serious conflict, so very happy to get him. Jeff Schwartz is going to swing by. We're going to talk about the post-combine NFL world and, of course, talk about the quarterback movement or lack thereof with certain players like a Matthew Stafford. And then shout out James, shout out Alonzo for this. Kevin Young, BYU head basketball coach, is going to join the home of the Utes the day after the most significant win, certainly of his coaching tenure, but of BYU season. One of the most significant wins in Big 12 basketball all year. And that was happening concurrently with Utah men's basketball playing their final home game last night against West Virginia. So you had to bounce back and forth. The BYU game went a little bit longer, so you could watch the entire Utah game and then catch just the final about 90 seconds of game time for BYU because, that was regulation. And then they ended up in a couple of overtimes as well. So we'll get to all of that on the show today. University of Utah, unfortunately, drops the final home game to West Virginia. They battled. They fought back. They got within a couple late, and unfortunately just a microcosm, a small little example of kind of how the season has gone. Can't get the right buckets to fall, can't get the right defensive stops, can't get the right rebound, and West Virginia is able to close it out. You don't like that for the seniors. You don't like that for the guys, the leaders on the team. And you certainly don't like it for interim coach Zach Eilert, who probably is not the biggest fan of me right now because I spent time yesterday, like an hour on the show, talking about who we believe is going to be his replacement. In jubilation about Alex Jensen. Again, no official announcement from the athletic department. I had more conversations yesterday, James, and despite the delay, despite the wait, I am actually even more confident today than I was when we broke that news yesterday that Alex Jensen's going to be the guy.
Yeah, and Jeff Goodman, a national college basketball insider, said that it's hours after you broke the news here on the Sean O'Connell show around 11:30, he tweeted that a decision, the hiring of Alex Jensen is expected to happen within the next day or two. So, I mean, that's got to feel like good validation, too, that a national insider is also jumping on that breaking news that you broke. And, yeah, so it's even though it's not official and there's certain people that want you have people up in the administration up at the University of Utah, that as always happens, whether it's a pro team or college program, they always would rather they be the ones that break the news, right? It's their hiring, whatever, and you got to respect that. But at the same time, it just because it's not official does not mean that does not mean that we don't have really good confirmation that it's going to happen relatively soon.
When is the last time you can remember a major story in sports being first released by the entity?
It just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, right?
No. It maybe has never happened in the last 50 years. Like,
I'm usually not part of breaking news, and I don't like. Actually, someone came at me on Twitter, tongue in cheek, I think, but there's an account, CB Utah, DB Utah, I'll find it. It was like, I actually had this first because they were hearing the same information that I was a day early and tweeting about it a day early and saying this is going to happen. And because it's a smaller platform, when you're, I believe this person is just a Utah fan, not just a Utah fan, but a Utah fan, not
a,
someone in the sports media
not a
or whatever.
Working media member, yeah.
And so, their circle a little smaller, their credibility not as assumed, right? But I'm not afraid to say, all right, if you knew this 24 hours before I did, good for you.
Yeah.
You had it first. Great.
Give you that credit.
That's that's fantastic, right?
It's the same way as like we brought up Jeff Goodman. Your circle, your credibility is not as high as Jeff Goodman.
And that's one thing that we do here, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there's sports to talk about.
We can move on.
But that is one thing that we do here in Utah. I'm usually not part of breaking news, right? And when I have been part of breaking news, when I have known in my career, and there's only a few examples, that's why I can bring them up so easily, when I've known for sure that I had something and put it out there, it's been really interesting that people react in a certain way, like, well, until I hear it from Goodman, until I hear it from Woj, until I hear it from Schefter, until I hear it from whomever, I don't believe it. And I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way, where I need to hear it from like a national news outlet in person before I'm like, yeah, that's definitely true, which is strange when we're talking about Utah men's basketball, because when is the last time national people paid attention to Utah men's basketball? Like, Utah men's basketball gets no love from nationwide reporters because, for obvious reasons, because they are worried about, I don't know, the top draft picks, the compelling teams, the tournament-bound squads, the coaching hires.
Utah has not been in that conversation
and
for
Utah's
a long
not,
time.
So it is. I'm not like, it's fine. You don't have to believe me. And the department maybe would prefer that someone with the verified check mark or whatever is the first person to put any information out, and I'm fine with that. I'm not offended by any of this. I'm not bothered by any of this. I saw people coming at me yesterday. If you're wrong about this, you're going to get fired. I'm like, guys, I'm not worried about it. Okay? I will. If I have to fall on a sword, I'll fall on a sword. But at the end of the day, it is another example of us here in the state of Utah having this strange collective insecurity about whether or not our stuff is like as verified, as important, as credible as the big stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. And I wouldn't like that if it were James Peterson who got the news, or if it were the random dude on Twitter that got the news, or if it were Spence Checketts that got the news, or if it were Hans Olsen across the street, for hell's sake, that got the news. Like, I have the same tendency you all do, and I don't want that to be the case moving forward, to where it's just like, well, why did I wait until somebody, like, until Woj said it before I believed it?
Yeah, why do we have to wait,
dude,
till that happens? And a lot of it is engineered that way by the great people in the PR departments at the colleges and pro teams. They want to engineer the national media talking about their team or their program for, totally valid reasons. But it also has gotten us, like you said, it's almost created this unfortunate byproduct of, we don't necessarily trust the guys who are here who are at the practices, at the games every day, every time, talking about them every day here locally. I'll tell you
the one that I got, the news that I broke that really had people confused.
I know.
You do?
Was it the Rudy Gobert tweet you had?
That's one.
Or you're thinking of a different one.
That one had more people confused.
Yeah.
A greater level of confusion was, I was the first person who knew that Kyle Van Noy was coming back to play another year at BYU. I was the first person to put it out there in the media, at least. And people were just like, what? I was working for ESPN 700. People are like, what? What? How do you know?
You're like, I know people who know Kyle.
People were going insane on like Cougar Board and some of the dyed-in-the-wool BYU writers and stuff were just like, how'd you find this out? And I'm just like, let me give you my sources, guys.
Yeah,
but I was laughing about it because I was 1,000,000% sure that was the correct thing to report. But I don't deserve to break BYU news.
No.
I don't deserve to break Kyle Van Noy's personal career plan news. But I was just like, all right, I'm going to do this and see how people react. And that one was very funny.
Yeah. But the one I first thought of is when you had the tweet that said Rudy is feeling like it's me or Donovan.
Yeah.
Before they blew it up, like weeks or month, or maybe it was a couple months before the Rudy Gobert trade, and then the eventual Donovan Mitchell trade. That one made people's heads turn too. You're like, wait, how does Sean O'Connell know someone in Rudy's camp and be able to to report something like this?
Yes, and it's just like, some of this is coincidental stuff, and that one went crazy, and people were getting big mad at me, and there were a lot of people who were trying to dunk on me like a week later or a month later, who were just like, see, everything's fine, and I'm like, I promise I'm right about this.
Yeah.
There's no way that both of these guys are playing for the Utah Jazz moving forward. And the case was that neither of them were playing for the Utah Jazz moving forward.
And I was still doing Sports Saturday at the time, and I had no sources on anything. Just my intuition said either one of those two players needs to go or Quinn Snyder needs to leave. You cannot run this back with the same three pillars of the organization. And I didn't want any of them to leave necessarily. That just felt like what needed to happen after that pretty awful season, that last season they had in 2022. You had to get rid of some pillars of your team. At least one of them. And it turned out all three were gone. And Quinn Snyder of his own choice, the other two, Jazz were ready to move on from him.
The other interesting thing about it, right, is like sometimes silence is golden, and when you're talking about stories coming out, and sometimes you can read between the lines. And, of course, in sports media, we probably do that too often. But there were several – well, Rudy talked to the media at least a couple times after I put that out there, right? And people asked him about it. And he didn't do the thing that you need to do if you're trying to discredit a report.
Yeah.
He didn't deny any of it. He did I don't know where people come up with this stuff. Yeah. All you have to do, right, is say, that's false. I've never said that to anyone, and I don't feel that way. I want to be a teammate with Donovan. I want to stay with the Utah Jazz. I love being coached by Quinn Snyder, whatever. If an athlete is trying to give you like the gaslighting answer or the back door, like, well, where'd you come up with that? Oh, is that what's happening? Like the sarcasm thing? Then you know that there's credibility to it.
There's at least some truth to it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's maybe they feel like it's exaggerated a bit. The report's exaggerated a bit, but there's some truth to it. It's the Kyler Murray. Remember when his contract came out and they said it had the clause that he had to study a certain amount, and his response was, if I didn't study, how could I have made it to the NFL? It's like, okay, thank you for gaslighting us.
All you have to
clearly
do,
you feel like
to say that's not in my contract. I have good study habits.
Yeah.
Anyone reporting that is incorrect.
Or it's in my contract because that's what teams put in contracts for some players. Like it nothing to anyway.
Which also
you're
is
totally
not true.
Right about this.
But so in any case, like I feel like we are headed the right direction. Whenever Goodman or fill in the blank, if David James tweets it out and you trust that instead, fine. I really am not going to be bothered by it. What's important to me is that on the home of the Utes, we have positive things to talk about for the Utah athletic programs and sometimes negative things. And, we need content. We need compelling content. There's nothing more compelling right now going on with Utah athletics than what I think is the eventuality, but even the possibility of Alex Jensen and or Andre Miller returning to the Hill to be coaches for a program that desperately needs a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
That's why I went with it. That's why I'm going to keep going with it until I get somebody who tells me it's not happening, dude. The next coach is Richard Pitino. And then I'll do what I have to do.
Yeah.
Then I will apologize and I will put out my statement.
Clearly, if that's the case, clearly other things happened between yesterday and when he was supposed to sign this contract that derailed the deal. But yeah,
While BYU is the hottest basketball team in the country right now, has 7 wins in a row, 3 of whom are over ranked teams, 2 of those on the road. I want us to have something that you can cling to as a Utah basketball fan, that you can point to and say, wouldn't that be great? And guess what? It's going to happen, people. All right?
And one of the negative things you mentioned about this is that they got a different guy finishing the season for him in Josh Eilert, who we wish all the best to. Like, I hope he might not be very happy that he's getting outshined here, and he's probably, if he's heard anything about this, some people completely stay out of it. He might be feeling, oh well, shoot, I guess that means I'm out of the running, and that's gonna make you feel pretty bad. But we wish him all the best. We want Utah to win the rest of their games this year. So with him as the head coach, because how awesome would that be that Utah's winning, and especially because the rivalry game is this Saturday.
Here's another thing for in terms of Josh Eilert and Utah men's basketball right now, and the difficulty of being an interim head coach in a scenario like this one, where he already did this at West Virginia one time, right?
Last year.
And there's a smaller sample size for him to prove one way or another, right? You're not going to make a decision on 4 regular season games, and even with the most optimistic projection, maybe 3 tournament games on somebody like Josh Eilert. You already have your targets. He doesn't have to be kicked off of that list, but he's not going to be top of that list. There was never a scenario in which he was going to be top of the list, and he knows that. And that's not something we have to shy away from. The best case scenario, the thing that you're focusing on, if you're Eilert, his family, is, do I want to be here? Is this a place that I want to stay? Is this a community I like living in? Because there are ways potentially you can make that happen by showing performances, even in a loss last night, Utah men's basketball. One thing you can credit this team for, and I know moral victories are not enough for anybody in college sports now. One thing you can credit this team for, and if you're going to credit the team, you have to credit Craig Smith, even before and even after he's been separated. You have to credit his sons that are still staying around the program. You have to credit the leadership within the players. You have to credit the last guy on the bench, and you certainly have to credit Josh Eilert for not letting everybody hang it up and quit.
Yeah, they're fighting.
They're fighting. And I know you're looking at the 90s of Utah basketball, and you're saying, why are we happy? Why are we clapping about a group of young men who are just trying? That should be the bare minimum. I know, right? Yes, you're right. That is at least the very bare minimum. But it's human nature when it has gone the way that it has gone at the University of Utah this year. Human nature allows for some level of apathy. Human nature allows for some level of discontent. And team dynamics, by the way, certainly contribute to that in most cases. So what's going on with Utah men's basketball right now, while it's not going to be some Cinderella run in March Madness, it is not wholly discouraging and is not something that you as a Utah fan, alum, whatever, should be embarrassed by. It's unfortunate that the program got to a point where it is not a perennial contender in the Big 12, in the Pac-12, in whatever. But for Eilert and company, they still have – you could pull off the most epic and incredible upset on Saturday. You could interrupt the hot streak of BYU. You could put a little humble pie back into the folks in Provo, and it would be the most unexpected thing right now.
And it would mean a season sweep, too, because you already – I mean, it wasn't nearly as improbable of an upset in January when they won in overtime in the first game, in an incredible game, because BYU had not rounded into form yet. This would be one of the biggest upsets in the rivalry games in the recent history of the rivalry game, for sure.
And look, and you'd be doing it on the road. And why does that matter? Well, ultimately, from a win-loss column situation, it doesn't. It's not going to change your destiny in 2025.
It's a pride thing.
It's a pride thing, and if you're again, we haven't had a chance to speak with Josh Eilert yet, but for him, it might be like that's why I'm making a phone call to Alex Jensen when he takes the job. I'm making a phone call through the back channels. I get a hold of Andre Miller, whatever, and I say, look what we still did with these guys. When every single one of them could have kicked off the shoes and hung up the jersey and just been like, I don't care anymore. I got a sprained ankle. I'm not playing. We got them to go down there and beat the hottest team in the country. Or even if you don't win, say we kept these guys competing and they were able to walk off the court for the last time, some of them, with their heads held high because of effort. That, if I'm a coach taking over a program, I'm looking at what the people before me did right, because you don't just want to come in and change every single thing. And effort is something that this team has done right. Execution leaves something lacking. Talent, perhaps, leaves something lacking. Effort, maybe the rotation, maybe strategy, maybe the minute distribution, whatever. Maybe there's problems there. Alex Jensen and whoever else is going to be able to diagnose that much better than I can. But if I say, all right, if I talk to some of the players who are committed to sticking around, and I say, all right, you know what? I'm trying to kick this thing off the right way. What's been good for you? Maybe a couple of them say, hey, Eilert really did a great job all season long, and then when he was given the impossible task of taking over for a coach that we liked who got fired, he kept us dialed in. If I'm someone taking the head job, I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's somebody that's worth keeping on my staff.
I want to keep him on the staff, and personally for Josh, if this team finishes strong and at least is competing against on the road against the hottest team, probably the hottest team in the country right now, who just beat a top 10 team on the road, his desirability for other programs, for their head coaching jobs and stuff, is high too. So he certainly has a lot that he can benefit from, whether it's staying on the staff under probably Alex Jensen or getting opportunities elsewhere. And yeah, like that's the unfortunate part about us being able to, about news being broke like this when there's a different guy in charge, is that's probably that can't feel good for that guy, that he's feeling like it's out of the
maybe,
running. But
my thought process on that is like he probably is aware enough. He's been coaching for a long time.
Yeah,
he's probably a realist in the sense of just like, I would have to win every single one of these games by 10 points to be considered a real candidate.
Yeah,
and like there's nothing wrong with that. We should all be realistic about our job prospects and our value to our organizations and what people think of us. And again, without having spoken with the man himself, my sense is that he probably is like, you know what? I'm going to do the best with what I've got right now, because that matters in coaching circles, and that matters in athletics, and that matters in character building for the young men who are still looking up to you and maybe looking more for answers than they have been for all season long, right? I mean, all that stuff matters. And he's done a good job of it, even though you didn't get the win last night, even though it hasn't. I mean, he's 1-2, right, as the head coach right now, and he's got an opportunity. They're going to be big underdogs against BYU, but he's got an opportunity to go down there and continue to do things the right way. Whether that translates to wins or losses, to be determined, but you got to keep doing things the right way. You got to keep living by your principles, and you got to keep showing up, and that's what he's doing. That's what these players are doing. Moral victories are good for like a week.
Yeah.
And then after that, you want results, and you want an announcement officially from the athletic department that this thing is headed in the right direction with Alex Jensen as the head coach. And for Eilert, my hope is he either is saying, I would like to remain on this staff. What can I do to convince you that I belong on this staff? Say that to Mark Harlan. See what his response is. Hey, part of the promise we made to whoever this next guy is, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, whoever part of the promises we made is that he gets to do whatever he wants. He gets to fill out his own staff. He gets to get a new strength and conditioning coach and team psychologist and whatever else. The athletic department knows what promises have been made and what haven't. And Eilert is a professional coach, and he's going to be just fine. But last point I'll make about this, the University of Utah still is unique. Now, they try to do things the way that a lot of, like, the elite programs in the world do them, but it still is a unique place. It still is a unique university, and it still is a place where precedent for retention has paid off in the past. So good luck to Utah men's basketball against BYU. We'll talk more about that game on Friday. Good luck to Coach Eilerts. Good luck to everyone in the athletic department trying to get whatever needs to be pushed all the way across the finish line. But I promise you, Utah basketball fans, there are announcements coming. There are things happening that you are going to love for Utah men's basketball. You're not going to like it. You're going to love it. And it's going to feel strange, and you're going to get cautiously optimistic, and then you're going to get overly excited, and you're going to have to dial it back to cautiously optimistic. You're going to love some of the stuff coming out of the Utah men's basketball program in the next day and a half, 2 days, week, months. You're going to love some of the announcements that you're getting. All right? Can we settle on that?
A lot of NFL news this morning, OC. I don't know if it with all this locally, all of our focus on the Runnin' Utes head coaching search, the NFL has come out of the dormancy and started to give us a ton of news with some unexpected releasings and stuff.
And we'll get to some of that with Scott Mitchell, who of course spent some time in the league, as they like to call it. Top Local Roofing, brand new partner here on the Sean O'Connell Show. I told you to do this yesterday. I'm telling you again. Don't become the victim of this beautiful weather and be like, everything's fine. I don't have to worry about my house. I don't have to worry about my windows. I don't have to worry about my roof right now. Yeah, you do, okay? This is a fall spring. You got rain coming. You probably have more snow coming. Now is the perfect time for you to get on the schedule with Top Local Roofing and our friend Justin Cunningham. Certified by the Better Business Bureau, working all up and down the Wasatch Front. Top Local Roofing. The phone number, don't just listen to this. Put it in your phone. 801-839-4501. I'm going to say it again. 801-839-4501. Take a look at that roof. Take a look at your neighbor's roof. Go over to your parents' house. Take a look at their roof. Justin Cunningham and Top Local Roofing will get it done fast. They will get it done right. They will beat the competitors' pricing. 801-839-4501. Tell them OC sent you. Scott Mitchell joins us next on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
breaking news.
Multiple sources indicating to us here at ESPN 700, your home of the Utes, longtime NBA assistant, Utah basketball legend, Alex Jensen coming home to take the head coaching position for Utah men's basketball. Oh, wow, look at that. A highlight from our own show yesterday. Okay. I need to be clear. The ink is not dry. Take that as he will. I believe Alex Jensen is the next head coach at the University of Utah. I've stated it every way I can as to why I went with it yesterday. Scott Mitchell joins us now on the program. Exciting news for anyone who's been part of the athletic department or just suited up and played another sport even. Scott, I'm operating under the assumption that Alex Jensen is the eventual head coach at the University of Utah. But I will have to say it this way because it's not official yet. If that happens, how great will that be for Utah basketball?
Well, I think Alex is a guy that they've wanted there for some time. And I know that they've had, last time when Larry Kostoviak was let go, that there was a discussion about it. He's very well respected in the basketball community and been a long time NBA assistant coach, and was a great player at Utah. Was part of the, that one of the heydays of the program, and he has a reputation as being a really good developmental coach and a tactician and someone who really understands the game of basketball. And it was. I think it was a hard decision for him last time. Maybe he didn't feel like it was the right time because, he has aspirations of being an NBA head coach and is certainly capable of doing that. And you wonder, so why he passed in the last time was maybe he didn't feel like the university was ready to make that all-in commitment to basketball, and all-in means paying money. The boosters kind of getting behind the program, and maybe that's changed being in the Big 12 with it being such a basketball conference. And then your rival down south is starting to have some success, and they saw the impact of having an NBA type of coach in their program and how it piques a lot more interest. BYU was able to sign the top player in the country, and a lot of that had to do with having that NBA coach, the one that's respected, the one who's worked with players, and the one that all players, every player that goes into sports in college, whether it's basketball or football or any, they think, well, I'm going to the pros, or I want to go to the pros, and I certainly want to go somewhere where I feel like I have the best chance to develop my skills so that I can do that. And maybe Utah's looked at that model in Provo and said we're going to kind of emulate that to some degree. I don't know the back end of it from the boosters if they've just said we're tired of putting up this curtain that covers most of the seats here. We need to fill the Huntsman Center, and we need to do it with someone who really understands our program and understands the history of it and is certainly capable. I love this hire. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a great thing for the school.
How much allure is there? Like you've coached, right? And you're a former Utah great. How much allure is there to chase these opportunities or to try to create these opportunities for someone, even of like your stature and status as a player in this program?
A lot. A lot more than you probably have any idea. I mean, and for me, I think a lot of players, the thing that's so hard when you retire is you don't have the drug, the adrenaline drug of going onto the stage and performing. It's just an incredible rush, an incredible feeling, an incredible experience that you can't replicate. Now, I don't take drugs. I've never taken drugs, So maybe you can get that, with certain stimulants, but a natural, like, there's nothing cooler than playing in a professional sports game, and there's nothing that replicates it. The excitement, the whole thing. But what I found, and what a lot of people have said, is coaching is a close second, and to some degree, it's almost even more rewarding. Where, as a player, you do it just for yourself, right? I mean, you're kind of focused on doing your job and your thing. But when you're a coach, you have to teach all these people how to do it, and to teach them and to encourage them and inspire them and motivate them to do it. And then they do it. It's like massively satisfying, where it's where you see others believing in and executing your vision or your interpretation of a sport. And I think always as an athlete, you're like, well, I have so much to share. I know for me, it's like, I have so much understanding and insight to the game of football, and not being able to share it with people in some way is kind of it really is almost a travesty, And so being able to coach and share your experience and your understanding of the game is something that I think is very valuable. And so I love when former players are coaches, and they have a unique perspective. They have that added perspective, that maybe someone who didn't maybe play at that high level has.
Well, that is one of the interesting things, and part of the reason I'm asking you these questions is because all of us, right or wrong, and most of the time wrong, watch something happening, and on a Utah football field is for the best example here, and say, oh my gosh, that is wrong. Do it the right way. Do it the way that I'm thinking you should be doing it. Do it the way that I would do it. And so you're like, I could have called a better play there. I could have coached up that particular moment better. And most of us, when we have those thought processes, are dead wrong about it, because we were never capable of performing better than those kids are performing. We were never capable or as knowledgeable about the game as those coaches are knowledgeable about the game. But people like you, Scott, that's not the case. Like, you have performed at that level, and you do have the knowledge that maybe even some coaches don't have, right? So, like, for all of us who sit there and watch these games and analyze them and stuff, all of us think we could do it better, but we can't. And if we really think about it, we know we can't. That probably isn't something, a realization that you have to come to.
Well, it's actually in some ways harder to watch the game if you're not analyzing it. This is what I love about being able to be the color commentator and be a Utah football fan, right? Because I'm a fan of Coach Whittingham and the program, and and just everything, the school, and I love where the program has gone, especially where it was when I was at Utah, and so it's fun to be a part of it, but it's to enjoy it is hard for me, because that's all I've done since I was played football, is I've analyzed it. Okay, here's the defense. This is what they're doing. What are you going to do? How are you going to call plays? What are you going to do in this situation? What works? What do you like? And so you constantly watch it, and you do go through that process of, well, that was a stupid call, or this is why this didn't work, and because sometimes the call is good and people just missed an assignment, I mean, there's or whatever, and so you get real, and so it's been good for me, because I'm not a good person to watch a football game with, if you watch the Super Bowl, because I just look at it analytically, and so it's not entertaining to me. When I'm doing the color calling for Utah, I can kind of get my frustration out by just being able to say, okay, here's what happened in this situation. Like, that wasn't the best, and I try to be positive about it. I try to inform people in an educational way. And it's almost therapy for me, Sean, really, to be able to just express in a constructive way what's actually going on in games. And if I want entertainment, I'm going to go watch basketball, or I'm going to go watch golf, or I'm going to go watch something that I enjoy playing, but I certainly didn't play it at that professional level.
Okay, I'm getting a little whisper in my ear, Scott, that our interview schedule has changed on the show today, which means I got to cut you loose so we can stay on clock. But appreciate your time, as always.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, we'll catch you soon.
Thanks to Scott Mitchell. The reason I have to cut Scott Mitchell off there is because Kevin Young, BYU head basketball coach, was scheduled for 1:30 today. He actually is going to jump on next, after this break. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. Special treat now, coming off one of the biggest wins of the Big 12 regular season, one of the biggest wins certainly for BYU basketball this year. The head coach, Kevin Young, giving us a few minutes. Kevin, welcome to the show for the first time. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Wow, you guys are the hottest team in the country right now. Everyone's saying it. Are you allowing the team to feel that way?
Man, this team's been great of just taking a day-by-day approach. I know it kind of sounds cliche, but that's just really been a strength of our group, man, just focusing on whatever we have to do that day and just kind of building on day after day. That's just been our mantra this year.
Okay, in dissecting, digesting a win like last night, what is your process? I mean, obviously you guys have to travel back. Are you watching the game film on the plane? Are you taking a little mental break and just enjoying a win like that one? How do you individually process the moments like that post-game up until now, which, I mean, it was only a few hours ago?
Yeah. I mean, I dive right into the film. I mean, I love watching film on the plane, and just kind of a great place to lock in and just focus on, learning and trying to get better. Unfortunately, this time around, we got stuck in Iowa due to some weather. So there was a big blizzard. So we're actually in Des Moines right now, hoping to get out of here tonight.
I didn't know that, Coach. That's not great. My extended family is from Iowa. Both my parents born and raised in Iowa. My grandparents are still there. So I've been stuck in Iowa because of bad weather. There are better places to be stuck than Iowa. So I do not envy you your position right now.
I mean, this is my wife's from Omaha. We lived in Des Moines actually for 2 years when I was coaching in the G League. So I'm sadly all too familiar with the Midwest weather.
Okay, so as you're watching the film from this game last night, how many tears of pride and joy from a coaching perspective trickled down your cheek when you were watching Keba Keita take 9 offensive boards off the rack and give your team extra possessions and extra chances?
Yeah, he was incredible. I mean, there was one. It literally looked like he jumped off of a trampoline and was just soaring through the air to go get it. He's just an incredible athlete, and he's got another gear that he can get to when the switch gets flipped. And so that was a huge part of that game. I mean, obviously we were, you know, I super rattled at points of that game, turning the ball over at an alarming rate, and so the only way we had a chance to even up the possession battle was to offensive rebound. And that's something that we talk about a lot. But for Keba to get 9 of them in that game on that stage in that environment was incredible.
When you're playing in the first half, and it was a weird slow start for both teams in, I guess, the first 5 minutes or so of the game. And Iowa State really couldn't get going in that first half. And you're in their building, and you know how good this team is. You know what it looks like when they're playing to max potential, but they're not in the first half. When you go into halftime and you've got a pretty comfortable lead, what's the message to the team knowing that they're absolutely capable of going on the run that they ended up going on?
Yeah, I mean, a lot gets made of us offensively, but there's been a lot of moments in this season where we've been really able to rely on our defense. And that was the case in that first half. Like you said, start the game, neither team could score. I thought our defense out of the gate was strong. We really locked into the game plan details at halftime. And then offensively, we were careless with the ball to start that game. And then we found a nice rhythm in the later part of the first half. We tried to emphasize that as much as we could, knowing that the second half they were going to really turn up the heat and turn up the pressure. So you just have to give them credit, because when you know what someone's going to do and they're able to do it anyway at a high level, that says a lot about that team.
Kevin Young, BYU head basketball coach, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. BYU 88, Iowa State 85 last night in double overtime. Richie Saunders, I'm sure you've answered a lot of questions about him this year. He has been absolutely phenomenal. 47 minutes when you factor in the 2 overtimes. He finishes with 23 points. He has been a revelation, an incredible asset to your team. At 47 minutes, that's a lot of basketball to play. How's he feeling today?
He's good. If there's a guy on our team that could handle that kind of a workload, it's him. I mean, he's got an uncommon motor and just really an uncommon just will and determination. So it's hard to get him off the floor. Even though we got a deep rotation, he's pretty unique, and so he was, we had to rely on him down the stretch too, even with such a high minute. Going to him in some of those key moments where he was able to make some plays for us was huge.
It's probably the most boring part of a double overtime thriller game, but 13-13 from the stripe for Richie, and obviously every point matters when it comes down to it. And this game ended up being so close. And I know he's a high percentage free throw shooter, and you can assume that from guys like him. But 13-13, Coach, that's clutch.
It is clutch. I mean, it's a level of focus, especially in that environment. I mean, I've been in a lot of loud arenas. I mean, that was up there with one of the loudest venues I've been in. So to have that level of focus in that environment was huge. And I thought him and Dallin both were just massive in terms of taking turns, making huge plays down the stretch for us.
Coach, how do you characterize the evolution of Yegor Denman's role, especially late in games, as you guys have been on this win streak, and maybe he has turned the ball over a couple more times than he would be comfortable with during timeouts as the game progresses? What is the thought process, the conversation, the decision making with Yegor, and whether or not he's got the ball in his hands?
The thing I like about Yegor is, he responds. I've taken him out of games at times when the ball's he's getting loose with the ball, which I did last night. But then he comes in, hits a huge three in one of the I don't even remember which overtime it was, but hits a huge three to open up. I think it was the second overtime. Had a huge layup as well. So, there's been other games at West Virginia, something similar happened where he makes huge plays down a stretch. So, he's a young guy. He's learning the physicality. I think people forget he's 6'9", and so when you got these 6'2" guards crawling underneath you, and the way that the game's officiated, it's very physical, and you're at a deficit because they're let these little guys crawl up under you. So I have to continue to do a better job of putting him in positions that he can be successful in. But just the thing I love the most about him is just his ability to overcome adversity in the heat of battle and still deliver big moments.
7 in a row, Coach. No small feat. One more regular season game left, and, of course, it'll be a home game against an in-state rival. These last 7, though, what has been the difference? From your perspective, why has it looked so good?
Confidence. Confidence, togetherness, belief, execution. And I know those all are, like, right off the coaching cliche bingo card, but that's what it is, man. These guys believe in what we're doing. They believe in their teammates. Opening up the rotation, playing pretty much everyone on the roster has made the competitiveness of our practices that much better, which has helped us, improve every single day. And then the belief and connectivity that they have in one another has been a major byproduct of that. And, that's really been it. I mean, I can get into the scheme and all that kind of stuff, but at the core, that's really what's been the most impactful thing.
BYU head basketball coach Kevin Young, my guest on the Sean O'Connell Show for just a couple more minutes. Red hot BYU Cougars hosting University of Utah. And, look, they're in a situation right now, interim coach. I reported yesterday that it looks like the program is zeroing in on hiring Alex Jensen, who I'm sure you know, and you guys have followed some. There's some similarity between the coaching paths that you follow, especially if he ends up taking this Utah job. So from your perspective, the adjustment from being an NBA assistant versus a head coach at a place like BYU, at a Big 12 basketball school where expectations are very high, adjusting to this challenge and knowing the growth you've gone through this year, how has it been?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot. It's a lot different than the NBA, all across the board. Not just the actual game, so much more physical. They let so much more go. That took me, I just had to quit crying about it, honestly, and just figure out a way to adjust and put our guys in positions to deal with a lot of that physicality. That's probably the biggest, difference on the floor. The spacing is a lot different. The skill level is different, and so there's things that come with that. In the NBA, you get better and you learn through the games and through film and through walkthroughs, whereas in college you really get better through practice, and that's something that's been a huge impactful thing for our group, as I just mentioned. And it took a lot of time for me to not just me, but my staff too. I've got other guys who this is their first go around in college. So credit to our players who are very mature and have been very patient, with the first year coach and myself being able to try to learn as much as I can. And, they've been great kind of helping me along the way.
Coach, I have to admit I'm guilty of this, but it happens. And I guess this will be my little confessional to you. We talk about BYU basketball as being a pretty strong representative of the direction that college basketball at large is heading, where if you've got the right NIL opportunities and you've got the right backing, you can go out and you can get an NBA assistant as your head coach, and you can go out and you can grab a Yegor Devin. You can grab an AJ DeBonsa, who eventually will be playing for you. And it's probably a little bit reductive. Like, you can go and you can buy some success, and it ignores that narrative, again, which I'm guilty probably of perpetuating sometimes, ignores the basketball and ignores what you're talking about, the learning and the practice and things like that. So if and when you hear people talking about BYU as like, well, money is the reason that this team is where it's at, how do you adjust to that? How do you respond to that?
I think it's been proven in sport year after year after year. You can point to many teams where, money doesn't buy anything other than opportunity. And so you have to, in today's landscape in the college world, I think, every team across the country needs to have a stable financial situation that's going to allow for everybody to sort of play on a level playing field. And then you have to get things right. You have to hire the right staff. You have to get the right players. You have to put the right system in. You have to, so it's not. It's so there's so many things that go into it, and in order to be competitive in today's day and age, you kind of have to have everything. And so that was a big thing for me as I looked at taking this job and understood the resources and really the support that BYU has. I felt like I could come in there and take advantage of that, but also, build up even more support and kind of give my pitch on how I want to run things there. And it's been exciting for me to have people, see exactly from the inside what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it. And that's driven even more excitement for our program. And so it'd be a discredit to our players and our staff and everyone associated with it, just talk about, money buys success. I couldn't disagree with that more.
You guys are going to be given buys to the quarterfinal in the Big 12 tournament. Where is the balance between rest and rust there? I remember in college football, we were talking about all these teams that earned the first round bye in the college football playoff are going to have this massive advantage, and then they all lost. So it's different in basketball, and the time off is a couple days instead of a month. But the buys in a conference tournament, asset or liability?
I'd be lying if I said I knew. I mean, this is my first time going through it. I mean, we had, similar things in the NBA where the play-in game happens and then you're waiting around to play and all this other stuff. I don't think it matters. I think what matters is, you're not having to play a back-to-back in your first game, to advance, right? Like that for me was important. But I don't know, man. I think you can make a case either way. All I know is our guys are going to be locked in. We'll have great practices, and whoever we play and whenever we play them, our guys will be dialed in and ready to go.
All right, Coach, before I let you go, final regular season game, as I already mentioned, against the University of Utah. There's always a strange dynamic in that game, as is the case with rivalries. There's a lot more layers to the onion now because of the situation that program is in. What are you seeing from Utah basketball on film? What's the scouting report for the Runnin' Utes?
Well, number one, we let one get away up there. We had a chance to win it on the free throw line late and came up short. And so our guys will be hungry to go get that win, especially in not just a rivalry, but to our guys will be ticked off from the loss we had up there. Now, in terms of their team, teams like that are dangerous because they're playing with house money. They got nothing to lose. It's a rivalry game. That'll be, it's just their Super Bowl where we got, bigger things in sight. But they have a talented group. They got good players. They can shoot the ball from three. When we played them up there, both bigs played extremely well. And so, we gotta dig into the game plan like we've done here recently and come out and execute it and do it in front of an amazing atmosphere in the Marriott Center. That'll be rocking for that game for sure.
Are you aware that they are rolling out a special Cougar Tail for this game?
I was not aware of that. What's special about this one?
This one is a new flavor. It is royal blueberry flavored Cougar Tail, and I am mad because I can't get one unless I make the trip and I deal with the parking situation, all that stuff. But will you take a crack at a royal blueberry Cougar Tail?
I mean, I feel like I owe it to myself to take a crack at that one. I mean, those things, though, man, I'm like 2 bites in, and I'm like, how in the world can anyone eat? My kids try it. Dad, I want a Cougar Tail. I'm like, man, we're taking you to the dentist right after you eat that thing because those things are brutal.
They are sweet, but hopefully you get one. Hopefully you get to try one, Coach. I'm not going to say I hope you win the game because we're the home of the Utes, but I do appreciate your time, and thank you very much. It's been incredible to watch what your team has been done so far. Looking forward to the tournament as well. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
That is Kevin Young, BYU head basketball coach. They've done some really great things, especially as of late. West Virginia, Kansas State, Kansas, Arizona on the road, Arizona State on the road, West Virginia, Iowa State last night on the road. 7 in a row for BYU basketball. And, of course, the Utes up next down at the Marriott Center. Big thanks to Kevin Young. We go from one head coach to another. BYU head basketball coach just joined us. Coming up, Andre Bear Torigny, the Utah Hockey Club head coach. 3 minutes from now on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Sean O'Connell Show continues, and a special treat. For the first time, we've been trying to make it happen. We finally get to head coach of your Utah Hockey Club, Bear Torigny, gives us some time on the show. Coach, how are you?
Very good yourself.
Doing all right. Coach, we've been waiting to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this so much. A little background here. I was in the market doing radio years back, and then went and did some satellite radio for a while. We get the announcement that the Utah Hockey Club is going to be a thing, that the Coyotes are moving up here, and we're all excited. My family's excited. We buy season tickets, Coach. I'm like, yes, this is going to be great. And then I get a job on local radio and a press pass, and I'm like, what the heck, man? I didn't even know I was going to. But I'm glad, because it's been an absolute joy going to games. It's been a huge bonding activity for my wife and I, and the atmosphere at those things is truly incredible. How has it been for you? I know you've answered this question a million times, but not on my show. How has it been for you making this transition and being part of this Utah community, bringing us the NHL for the first time?
Yeah, it's been fabulous. I think that the love we receive from the fans, the love we receive everywhere in town, not just during the game, all the time, everywhere I go, restaurant, grocery store, whatever. Every time we go out with my wife, there's people greeting us, talking to us, being really, really kind with us. So it's been outstanding. And on top of it, I think we all see the atmosphere at the Delta Center and how much the fans are into it and how much emotion there is around the team. So I think it's been fabulous so far.
Well, we have been rewarded as fans with some pretty incredible hockey, and especially after the break, now that you've got everybody healthy, it seems like another corner is being turned. Does it feel that way in the locker room, in the dressing room for you guys?
Yes, absolutely. I think we feel pretty good about our performance. We feel pretty good about the effort. I think we're in a good zone right now where, since we're back from the break, the big win was, first of all, big win in Washington before the break. I think that get us in the race, and then beating Vancouver at home here got us closer, and then we kept winning, and obviously we're right there behind them. So I think just to have that feel, that energy around the team, it's pretty cool.
So you guys are in the playoff hunt, still within striking distance, and I know that it's going to take some other results around the league, and you have to take it a game at a time, but I imagine that you still want to stay focused on the big picture in some ways. How do you manage that with the guys and with your squad and yourself?
Well, I think for us, it's not like if it's a new situation in the sense of that it's a long season. So I think we crawl in that position by effort, by commitment and everything. So it's not like if it happened overnight and we didn't see it coming. You know what I mean? We're there. We fought. A season. It's always interesting because there's such a different stage in your season. There's moment you were playing really good. You were feeling like $1 million. Nobody can beat you. And there's moment is the reverse. You cannot make a play. You struggle mentally, and you need to grind yourself out. And then at that moment, you think, well, we'll never make it. So I think it's such a lot of emotion. So that's why when you arrive at this stage with 60-some games played, you feel you have baggage as a team. We have experience. We have battle scar. We have stuff we went through. And one thing has been consistent through all that. It's how much the guys stick together, how much they were resilient. They were never negativity around the team. They were competitiveness, resilient. Every time we were engaged with each other. So I think we've been fortunate to have such a good group of guys.
Look, I'm no different than a lot of the media members in this market, and we're relative neophytes to hockey compared to some of the more dyed-in-the-wool fans, the people in Boston, the people in Minnesota, the people in Detroit, things like that. So we're learning through this process. But one thing that I've observed outside looking in, it does seem like this is an incredibly tight-knit squad that was battling together even when there were some unfortunate injuries. Although I don't know exactly what to compare it to. You, of course, do. You've been a hockey lifer. So from a chemistry perspective and a team unity perspective, is this group uncommonly tight? Is it always like this in a locker room? You tell me.
No, it's not always like this. I think it's something you need to cultivate. It's something you need to work, and you need good leadership. It speaks loudly about the character of our leaders. I think if you look at the Cleveland Keller and the Lawson Krause and Schmaltzy and Kerfy and all those guys, I don't want to forget anybody, but the point is those guys are guys that care about their teammates, who are team first guy. And I was talking with Oli Mata yesterday, and he was talking about how tight of a group we have and how special that is to have that kind of a group. So it's everybody who's around the team, and it's not just this year. That group has been really building that and making sure they have that brotherhood, they're brother, and they have that togetherness as a group. So I think that's credit to them. I don't want to discredit them for that.
Interesting that you mentioned Oli Mata in that regard. News this week that he got an extension. He'll be with the Utah Hockey Club for another 3 years, and he was, for people who don't remember, he was a later addition to this squad. An October trade is what brought Oli Mata in to help bolster the blue line, and obviously it's worked out quite nicely. He's played incredible hockey, and if he's telling you, hey, wow, this is a great team, this is a great environment, and then he gets the extension, I mean, that's all positive stuff to me, Coach. What has Oli Mata meant to you and this team?
Oh, he's huge. It's such a pro. You know, when you're around Oli, you understand honestly what's a good pro. He is in the gym. Is elite. In the practice, is elite. In prep for his game, is elite. And attention to detail is elite. His competitiveness is elite. You know, everything. When you talk about being a good pro, that's Oli Mata. And you know, there's a lot of trade in pro sports, and you know, it's just the way it is. But when we made the trade for Oli Mata, there are people who coach him before who went out of their way to call us or to talk to us and say, that's a hell of a pro. You made a hell of a acquisition. You will see this guy around your team will be a huge addition. And, you know, it's not all the time you have that kind of interaction, or I could even say it's rare. But guys who coach him in Pittsburgh and elsewhere, they reach out to us and the coaches and say, hey, you will see this guy's a hell of a pro and you will love him. And they were right. We love him.
And obviously he's been important to your pairings defensively. And now that knock on wood, Coach, I don't want to curse any bad luck here. Everyone's pretty healthy, right? So has that rotation settled mostly for you? Do you have the right guys paired up with the right guys, you think?
Well, you mean in the back end?
Yeah.
How we set that up? Yeah, we like the way it's set up right now. Can that change? Absolutely. That can always change, but we like the way our pairings are right now. We'll see what the game will bring and who will perform, who won't perform, but we like our pairing that way.
When the roster got a little bit thinner because of some of those injuries, I was talking every single week, it seemed like, about how many minutes Sergachev was skating and how it just did not seem to bother him. We know he's part of your special teams, and obviously he's a core part of this defense. And he was on the ice for 25-plus minutes for several games, and it didn't bother him. And, you know, I would ask all the so-called experts we would bring on, the insiders, and say, hey, is this sustainable? And a lot of them were just like, I mean, for most people, no, but for Sergachev, probably so. And it kind of worked out that way. What has this guy meant for you and your defense?
I think there's two parts of your statement there. There's I think if you want to play at your best, less minutes you play, better you play, because it's just normal. It's just human. It's help your focus, help your intensity, help your effort away from the puck, and you don't have to pace yourself and all, so on and so forth. So I think since everybody's back, his minute drop a little bit, and that is to his advantage. You look at his performance right now; he's playing at an elite level. Having that said, when the team was in need, he came up huge to help us and to go through and being able to play those minutes and battle through. That was so key for us. So really happy about his performance. I think he means a lot for our team. Without the way he played, that will have been even a tougher grind for us.
We're talking with Coach Bear. Andre Tournier, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show for another few minutes, talking Utah Hockey Club. I've spent a lot of time focusing on the defensemen because I find myself watching those big physical guys that just the style my eye is drawn to when I'm watching hockey. But of course, the sexy thing is to fill up the back of the net and your goal scorers. And we saw just a couple games ago, we saw a huge performance from Kells, going a goal and 4 assists and racking up points. And obviously Dylan Gunther has been incredible. How was your attack taken shape? How much work did it take for you and for these players to kind of put it together and to get the chemistry right and the puck movement right?
I think it's, again, that often your offense starts from the back end. You know, your first pass, your counterattack start there. And I think right now we're improving our offense every game. I think we're generating more speed off the rush, off the forecheck. At the moment where the league is getting tighter, we're generating more. So that is really positive for us. I really like the chemistry right now. I think the McBain crosser and the Doan line give us a huge boost. I think their intensity, their pace give us, like I said, just the great push at the great moment, at the moment we needed. So I like the way we shape right now.
Your captain, Clayton Keller, has really been an incredible player. We thought it was a bit of a snub that he didn't get to represent USA in 4 Nations. And I don't know if he was making a point playing against the Wild, whose GM is involved in the selection process, by having a game like that. I don't know if that's how his mind works. But regardless, he's just an incredible hockey player. We haven't had an opportunity to speak with him yet on the show. Just tell me about your captain, Coach, and what he is, both on the ice and in the dressing room for you.
You know, what he is, he's a hell of a competitor. I always say that about Cal. I think he has that desire to be the best player every night. And he has a lot of quality, but that's the one for me who makes the biggest difference. I think when you have a guy who wants to be a difference maker every night, and on top of it, he's a great teammate. He's loved by his teammate and all of it. I think that's a looks for us. That's a great opportunity for us.
And a guy that I already mentioned his name, but Dylan Gunther really just finding a rhythm and scoring a lot of goals and establishing himself as one of the great young scorers in the league. And obviously the contract situation means he should be in a Utah Hockey Club sweater for a long time. When you have not just one, but multiple guys that are kind of growing together and creating this sort of offensive dynamic, what's the ceiling like for a player like him and lines that he's involved in?
You know, I always hate to put a ceiling. Putting a ceiling is like putting a lid and saying, hey, that's his potential. The sky's the limit. Let him figure it out. And let him surprise us and please us. That is one. But what I like about our young guys is they are competitors. You talk about Dylan Gunther. He has drive. He has grit. He plays with passion. He wants to make the difference. He's not just happy to produce or to be there. He wants to make the difference. He wants to win. He wants to be there in key situations. And talk about Logan Cooley is the same. He is really competitive and driven, and it's never enough. They always want more and more, and I love that about them. And it's both sides of the puck. That as well, it's something is important because you see a lot of good young talent coming across the league, and they need so many years to figure it out. Oh, okay, winning game is not scoring goal. Scoring goal is part of what you need to do to win game, but in winning games, there's way more layer to it. And those guys already understand that, and they already perform really well on both sides of the puck and on the competitive side, and they get on the inside, and they open the ice for their teammate and do a lot of unselfish stuff. So I really appreciate them.
Bill Armstrong said, I think it was yesterday, maybe day before, saw the quote when asked about how active Utah Hockey Club was going to be with the approaching trade deadline. He said something to the effect of, I think this roster, this squad has earned a right to stay together. And I don't know what that means beyond it. It sounds like we should expect minimal movement, if there's any movement at all. How are those discussions going between you guys as Friday is when the trade deadline happens? And I imagine the phone is ringing for some of the valuable assets that you have and things like that. How collaborative is this effort?
Oh, it's really collaborative. First of all, I know the trade deadline is this week, but those conversations doesn't happen this week. If they're happening this week, we missed the boat somewhere. We had a lot of time to get prepared. We had a lot of time to talk about it. We had, there's a lot that goes into it. So we had time. A lot of discussion during the season sometimes is you're in the sequence or you're in a really important game and can be game 19 of the year, and you talk and you say, hey, okay, well, looking forward to see how so-and-so react, how our team reacted. And it's an accumulation of information like that where at some point you say, okay, that's what's missing in our team, or that's what we need more, or that is what we need to be better at, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not something happen overnight and we say, okay, there's a trade deadline in 2 weeks. Now what are we doing? It's a fluid conversation where it leads to, okay, that's a decision we will take because for the best of the team.
When you identify something that maybe is missing or that you need, how do you know whether it's the right move to, all right, we got to get a different body in here to give that to us versus I know that we have somebody skating for us right now that maybe we can move them around. Maybe we can put them in a different line. We can pair them with somebody else, and then we'll get that. How do you find those things out, Coach?
Well, I think you need to give those guys who you think can fill up that role, you need to give them the opportunity. But first, they have to earn it. For you to think, okay, this guy, example, Josh Doan, we think he can play that role in our team. Okay, that's an opinion. It's not a fact yet. It's just an opinion. Now you need to earn the right to have that opportunity, and then you need to give him the opportunity. And now you read what the script is. But at the end of the day, I always say the player decides by their performance. They tell you how much they want it, how good they are, et cetera, et cetera. And from there, the decisions are easier, put it that way.
In an ideal world, what is the balance like with goaltenders for you? How much consistency and how much rest do you like to give these guys?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say normal world or perfect world, it's not the NHL. It doesn't exist in that league. In that league, it's so competitive. You want to win every night, and you go at it every night. So it's really tough to talk or to think. We will have a perfect world. Having that said, understanding really your question, I think every situation is different. I will say for us right now, Veggie's playing really, really good. We have a back-to-back coming, so we'll be a split there. Iggy will have an opportunity, and we'll go from there. It's tough to plan 5 moves ahead when you're not there yet. So for us, we're not in position where we can plan that much ahead and say, hey, okay, here that will be the rotation and so on and so forth. I think we'll go on a smaller scale, and we'll go really game to game and try to figure that out.
Couple of big picture hockey questions for you, if you don't mind, Coach.
Go right ahead.
The American sports public was treated to something truly unique in the Four Nations Challenge and the USA versus Canada, the dynamic that developed there. It was an absolute joy when so much of the time we spend is we talk about load management and guys worried about injury and protecting their contracts and stuff. And hockey players are built different. We're coming to realize that. It was just like, you know what? I get to represent my country. I'll do what I have to do. And the aftermath of that, and this is what I wanted to ask you about, one of the best players on a Stanley Cup contending team, Matthew Tkachuk, is out for the rest of the regular season because of an exhibition game. Now, an important exhibition game, certainly, but an exhibition game. In another league, that would be the end of that exhibition game. that would be the end of star players participating in it, and everyone would be like, oh, that was a bad idea. You can't afford to sacrifice the product for the sake of something like this. I have not heard one whisper of that conversation happening around the NHL, but I'm not nearly as dialed in as you are. Is that being talked about? Like, maybe we did too much here with this thing. We got one of our best players hurt trying to skate for USA. How is it being reacted to in the league right now, Coach?
There's two part of it. That's a really good question, but there's two part of it. There's the team, every team. Hey, listen, if you look at Boston with Charlie McAvoy and those guys out, and others where they got hurt. Okay, you talk about Florida, totally agree. But don't forget, that's what the player wanted. It's not just the league. It's what the player asked for. That's what the player, after the last Olympic, if you remember, they were furious about not having the opportunity to play best on best. So there's two part of it, and I don't know the answer. I understand your question, really good question, but as a team, if we will have had two guys hurt in that competition and out, oh boy, that's a huge blow. But at the same time, there's the player who that's what they want, and it's revenue as well for the league, so that helped the salary cap and everything. There's business involved in that, and what's the right answer? I'm not the right guys to answer that, but one thing I know, we're looking at the team, what they think, and this and that. But you need to understand as well that was the wish of the player. So how we fix that? You tell me.
Well, that's it. That's what you're paid the big bucks for, Coach. You're the one who has to manage those kinds of things, not me. And last thing before I let you go, because you've been very generous with your time, and I appreciate it. But this market is finding its love for hockey. A lot of people, for the very first time, even those of us who've been around the game a little bit longer, it's totally different when you have your own team and you have your own guys that you could cheer for and your own games that you could show up at consistently. For you and your players, you're not only expected to perform and to play great hockey, but also to kind of like introduce the game to all of us and to answer questions that you might not have to answer in Boston or Detroit or Minnesota or whatever. Is that a burden? Is that a pleasure?
No.
What is it like to be like, let me introduce you to this beautiful game?
I think it's been a pleasure. I've been grateful because the way the people, like I said before, the people behave and interact with us. With such an enthusiasm, there's such a respect, and the interaction with fans right now has been only incredible. Seriously, it's been everywhere we've been. So we've been grateful, and it's not like we start from zero. They were hockey in Utah before. They were pro hockey for a long time. So there's a lot of there's a decent fan base as well who has really good hockey knowledge, and there's the other fans who I interact with. A lot of people say, hey, I never been really into hockey, but I went at your game and really enjoy it, and I'm glad, and I will go at more games, and I'm a hook. And there's other who told us, hey, I was a fan of another sports, and I went at your game, and now I'm a hook, and I'm a hockey fan, and et cetera, et cetera. So the interaction with the fans has been just second to none.
Okay, this last thing is selfish, and it's just for me, Coach. So I spent 12 years of my life as a professional mixed martial arts fighter, and
wow.
I actually fought a guy you probably know of, at least. Steve Bosse and I fought in the UFC. He and I fought. We had an epic match up in Canada against one another. I've never tried to fight on skates, Coach. And it's clearly different. It's clearly like a very nuanced thing. I want to try. I got to get an invite. We got to find a way. I got to get some skates on. I got to get a sweater and some pads on. I want somebody to show me how to grab, how to balance, how to throw the punches. Can we make that happen?
Yeah, we can make that happen for sure. There's no doubt about it. It's totally different off the ice than on the ice. But both of them, I think I think you did it on the professional level. So that's congrats to you. It's special, but you will enjoy it on skate as well. It's totally different. I'm sure you will like it.
I'm sure I'll like it. I'll probably be terrible at it, but I'm going to like it anyway.
We'll see. I love it.
All right, Coach. Well, I'll look forward to making that happen somehow. Again, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure having you guys here, and thanks for joining the show.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Thanks for having me.
The head coach of your Utah Hockey Club, Andre Bear-Tourigny. And again, the chase for a playoff spot, for a wild card spot, is on. They're going to need a little bit of help from the teams around them and above them, but this Utah Hockey Club has really been a phenomenon, and they're off to a great start in their first year in Salt Lake City. Lots more to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Cooley will pick it up. Turnover, Minnesota. Keller. Out high, Sergachev. Now Sergachev holds to the front. Backhander, they score! Clayton Keller! What a night! A goal! 3 apples! And Utah has busted it open here.
Matt McConnell on the call, sound courtesy of Smith Entertainment Group Media. That was a Clayton Keller goal. 6-1 win over Minnesota as Utah Hockey Club trying to claw their way into that wild card spot. They will need a little bit of help from Vancouver especially, Calgary especially, but there is an opportunity if they can keep putting together performances like that one. Keller had a goal and 4 assists in that game. He only had 3 assists at that point on the call. He ended up with 4 in that game, 5 points in a game, a franchise record, obviously, for the Utah Hockey Club, career high for Clayton Keller in terms of assists in a game. So really spectacular performance from Kells. And we just had an opportunity. What a great conversation we had with Bear Tourigny. This is a team that has vision. The coaching staff has a vision. The general manager has a vision, and the statement earlier, and I referenced it in the conversation with Bear, the statement earlier this week was something to the effect of, this team has earned the right to stay together, from Bill Armstrong. I cannot tell you how relieved I am to hear that, because we probably failed to appreciate how precarious the situation is for a franchise when you're brand new to a market, okay? And now you've started to really capture the hearts and minds of the sports fans in this market, really getting investment, really getting people dialed in, really getting people who love the product, love the team. Now, you're not going to trade Dylan Guenther. You've locked him up long term. You're not going to trade Clayton Keller. He's your captain. He's the core of your team. You're not going to trade your alternate captains. You're not going to trade the Krauses and the Coolies. There was some speculation a few weeks ago that maybe Vejmelka would be available on the trade market. You're not doing that because he's your starting goalie now. Ingram is perhaps more dispensable. I don't think so, especially when Bill Armstrong says, I think that this team has earned the right to stay together. When I say that's crucial, you've got now people starting to learn the names and the faces and the movements and the lines and who's skating which shift and all that kind of stuff. Familiarizing themselves with your product, with your team, with your players. If you go and you trade them away, it is a riskier proposition for Utah Hockey Club than any other club in the NHL right now. Anyone in the NHL can be like, you know what? We love this guy. He's a fan favorite. We're going to send him to Florida because that's just how it's got to be. For Utah is in this dicey situation where people are like, oh, well, that's the only guy I cared about on the team. That was my favorite player because I've only learned for 3/4 of a season who these players even are. I mean, they signed Olli Mata to an extension. Olli Mata's been here since October and has now established himself as part of the core for this team moving forward. That's how fluid this situation was when you landed in Salt Lake City. You just needed help. And now that you're finally healthy and you're playing some good hockey, and look, it's far from perfect, and I'm not telling you that they can't make any moves, but it's just riskier for them to make a move than it is for anybody else in the NHL. Because support, club perception, if it works out, wonderful. If it doesn't work out, people don't know anything to compare it to for the most part. So if you make a bad transaction right now in a Utah Hockey Club front office, and people are just like, well, why did you send away Barrett Hayton? I love that guy. I used him because I love that guy. And if what you get back is not enough or what you get back doesn't work out, then your whole perception of Bill Armstrong is that. Your whole perception of this ownership group manipulating the roster is, well, that didn't work out. Because, they pulled off the Sergachev trade. That's a plus. That's good. But that happened at the same time they were landing in Salt Lake City. So if that trade had been done by Nashville, that's the big headline. That's the big story. That's the big judgment point. Sergachev has worked out very nicely. That was a wonderful acquisition. But guess what? it wasn't as big of a story because the story was that the team existed in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's not quite a blank slate for this franchise's front office right now, meaning that everything you do has to be positively judged, but it's like the grayest of slates. It's like barely off-white slate. It's like, yeah, we know that you've actually done a couple of things here, but we're starting to pay attention now. Now we're actually figuring out what it means to have this guy alongside this guy and why that guy is so important to the team culture and why you can't get rid of this dude. Like, all of that stuff is brand new in hockey, so it's a different equation for Bill Armstrong and company, and I think the conversation with Bear tells me that they're aware of that and that they like what they've got, and there's no reason not to like what they've got.
And I think it's good that they're aware of it, but I think maybe the best thing that they can do from a general manager standpoint, head coach that's advising the general manager in what moves, informing him on why trading this guy might not be a good idea, why keeping this guy is probably a good idea. I think the best thing for them to do is, yes, be aware of it, but also sort of ignore it and do what's best for the club, right? And which I can understand is definitely hard to understand from a fan's perspective. It's probably very difficult. It's probably way easier said than done, but Bill Armstrong strikes me as the kind of guy, he has struck me since the team got here in April officially as the kind of guy that operates that way. Like, the fans, we were so jacked up. We were so excited for a hockey team, and one of the first things Bill Armstrong said in his press conference introducing him and the team was, we're rebuilding, right?
This is actually a great point because he is so worried on what is best for the club that he's willing to stand out there at an introductory presser and just be like, calm down a little bit.
We're not winning a Stanley Cup this year.
Don't let your hopes get too high. Like, he's so concerned of doing what is best for the club primarily, and not, is that he is willing to say something unpopular because it's in the club's best interest. So you make a great point.
So I think it might be the best thing to sort of ignore hey, these are the guys our fans finally know. And if the best deal out there is trading it because you brought his name up as an example, Barrett Hayton, as one of your favorites on the team, then the best thing to do is probably to make that deal. Now, of course, we're just throwing his name out as an example here. He's not in any trade rumors or anything, Barrett Hayton, but
he was put in the NHL. So the trade deadline is on Friday.
Yeah,
in the NHL, and the ESPN put out this. Here's what we would like to see happen, because there's already been one blockbuster trade. Florida is exploiting this salary cap loophole because Tkachuk is out.
Yeah.
So now they have like $9 million to spend.
When a player gets in the NHL, correct me if I'm wrong, when a player is out for the season, their salary doesn't count.
Correct.
Against the team. That's amazing.
So
how can we get that in the NBA?
He's out and he's only out for the rest of the regular season.
Right. Yeah, so he could be back in the playoffs.
It's just like, guys, for real? But everyone, it's an equal playing field for everyone. Everyone in the NHL can exploit this. So Florida, who's already a really good team, right? Defending Stanley Cup champions, they're firmly in the playoff hunt. Not even hunt.
Tkachuk is their best player, but he's not the only reason they're good.
And now they're like, it's kind of like when the Warriors had that year where like Steph Curry got injured and Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, and everyone was just like,
Klay had torn his ACL in the NBA Finals the year before. KD leaves in free agency, and he would have been out all year anyway because the Achilles tear. Yeah, I know the years.
And Steph Curry got hurt, so it's just like they effectively tanked.
Complete throwaway year because of injury.
While they still had Klay Thompson, they still had Draymond Green, they still had Steph Curry. They effectively tanked and got better draft picks because of it. And it was like, oh, well, that's kind of a sucky thing for everyone else in the NBA. And it's part of the reason why the window for the Warriors is kind of propped open at this point. But anyway, back to hockey. Barrett Hayton's name was put in a proposed trade by ESPN.
Okay, so I'm
And
mistaken.
I was like,
he has been in some rumors.
but that is not even
or
that was like
a hypothetical trade. I
yeah,
guess.
there's more of a that's not even like a trade rumor is like being reported on. It's like this is what I, the writer for ESPN, would like to see happen, and they want to see the Utah Hockey Club take a big swing now, and now's not the time. It like you're right. You do what's best for the club, but what's best for the club right now is the playoff race is you need help. You don't control your own destiny for your Utah Hockey Club. If that were the case and you were like, you know what, we can make the playoffs this year, we can start teaching these young guys how to win playoff hockey now, and it's totally within our control, let's do what we have to do. Let's take a big swing. Let's add that missing piece or those two missing pieces, and let's make a run at the playoffs. That'll put us ahead of schedule in our rebuild.
Go ahead, trade for Connor McDavid.
Yes,
let's do it.
Go ahead. Go ahead and try that. No, but because that is not the reality of where you're at right now, because you need Calgary and Vancouver and some other teams.
We never liked McDavid anyway. That's the attitude.
To stub their toe. So what you say is you look at the roster and you say, all right, nothing is going to change our short-term future drastically. So let's see what actually is best for us in the long term. And I think my uneducated view on it is what's best in the long term is that you see how well this team gels together. You are the fourth
continuity.
You're the fourth youngest team in the NHL. You have a lot of guys that are still learning how to play together. You have really for 75% or more of the active hockey so far this year, you've been dealing with significant injury. So now I put the question out there, by the way. This was from yesterday. With the trade deadline approaching, what should you do if you're the GM? Keep the team intact. Don't make a trade. That's 35% of the votes. Trade for defensive help, blue line help. 25% said that. Only 7% said trade for a goalkeeper, a goaltender. Trade for attack or scoring help. That's almost 33%. 32% said, give me some help in scoring the puck. And sure, but now that Gunther's back, Keller and Gunther are together, Krause, we've seen it. We've seen the results. The Minnesota game, best example. But we've seen the results of what it looks like when everyone is there. And as Bear said, oftentimes that attack starts with the first pass off the blue line or the first pass after Vejmelka, stops something and then the rebound. How do you begin that rush the other way? And your blue line was the thing that was decimated most by injury this year. Your defensive pairings were constantly shuffled around. Now those guys are where they need to be, where they think they should be. And that means you're far more likely to get that best first pass, that best first look. So I think the right thing is to stick around and see how this develops and how it plays out, because the playoffs are an unlikely thing. Still possible, but an unlikely thing. So give me a sense of what this team is now, and if heading into the offseason and the draft, you know what your needs are, you can address some things there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously making the playoffs would be incredible, especially in the first year here in Utah. But them getting – if they stay on the pace that they're at and they just missed the playoffs and it's by a couple of points, you got to be really excited about this team next year, because they'll have a whole off season to add to this group. They'll probably look to keep the majority of the core together that already played really well. You got to be really excited. But hey, we're gonna keep the playoffs as a possibility here on the Sean O'Connell Show until they're eliminated, because they're still right there. The percentage chance is much lower than it looks like in the standings, but they're still right there. And they certainly could get some help. Hockey's such a volatile game. Win by 1 point or 1 or 2 goals here and there, they certainly could get the help they need to make the playoffs. So we'll keep you apprised of what's going on. We'll keep it as a likelihood until it's not here on the Sean O'Connell Show. What do you think of that, OC?
Yeah, no, we're definitely I'm gonna gas up the possibilities
Absolutely.
of it, and results matter, right? So I mean, a team in front of you gets cold, or 2 teams in front of you get cold. The percentage of Utah Hockey Club making a playoff run increases drastically. There's plenty of hockey left to play, so certainly not out of the realm of possibility just yet. All right, we got to take a quick break. And as we're talking about Utah Hockey Club making a playoff push, the Utah Jazz are doing the exact opposite thing, and there's a huge, huge game coming up for the tank race. We'll talk about that next with our tank race update. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, checking in on the Utah Jazz effort to get the best possible draft lottery position here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Reminder to all of you out there that also we're giving away Offspring tickets. Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater is hosting the Offspring. We're giving away a pair of tickets every day this week during Topical Trivia, so that's coming in roughly an hour. We'll say 55 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right, James, what's the latest on the Utah Jazz tank race?
Well, before we get to the absolute showdown tonight,
This
in the
is the
tank
game
race,
of all games.
Yes, if you're living in the bizarro world, the tank world that we're living in, this is Celtics taking on the Cavs this season.
Cleveland OKC.
This is Cleveland OKC. This is Lakers Celtics traditionally. Like this is the game. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about what happened last night. The Pelicans lose to the Lakers. Lakers are on fire right now, by the way, OC. They're in the second. They're the 2 seed right now in the West.
This is wild.
They were what, the 6 or 7 seed when they made the trade for Luka?
Yeah,
they've shot right up.
Can we check in on how the Mavericks are feeling right now?
Ugh. Yeah, not good. Not good. They are they're in the play-in, but yeah. No
for now.
No Kyrie.
Kyrie
is
gone for the rest of the season.
Awful.
Just checking in. Just making sure.
Yeah, just awful. But they might end up in the tank race here. Anyway, T-Wolves beat the Sixers last night, 126-122. Just a heartbreaker for the Tank. Obviously, no Joel Embiid the rest of the season for the Sixers, so that was going to be an unlikely win for Philly in Minnesota, but they got so close to the upset, which would have been fantastic for the secondary Tank. It was not, though, so we digress. Now to the big one tonight, OC. Jazz at Wizards. The game, if NBA Today on ESPN, if Inside the NBA coming up tomorrow night aren't talking about this game, SportsCenter, if they aren't talking about this game as the biggest game in the NBA, then they're missing the boat. This is the biggest game in the league tonight.
It is the final countdown. It is worst in the East versus worst in the West.
Yes.
Let's go, baby.
The third worst record in the league, the Jazz. Worst record in the league, Washington. Huge game, obviously. 5 o'clock on K-Jazz, and so many people are sitting out. OC, Lowry, Walker, John Collins, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, they're all out. Some of them are listed as rest. Most of them some kind of injury that they're out tonight with. Yeah, we'll put air quotes on there. Jordan Poole and Malcolm Brogdon, two of the top players for the Wizards this year, still on the roster anyway, are out. But Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart, the veteran leadership remaining on this team,
okay,
they're playing. So I feel pretty good about the Jazz's chances.
That should be enough
for a loss tonight.
That should be enough. So facetiously, but also kind of seriously, you promote everyone from the stars. You play your G League team tonight.
Absolutely.
You don't try to win.
Well, everyone except Isaiah Thomas anyway, because he's on the Stars right now. I think he's still on the Stars. But yeah, that's tonight, 5 o'clock on K-Jazz. And it's a huge game. The Jazz know it's a huge game when they have 4 of their 5 starters and one of the best 6 men in the league in Jordan Clarkson. They're just like, you know what? Take the night off. That's how you know it's a huge game in the Tank race. Only other game involving the Tank, and this is a 2-for-1 because it involves a secondary Tank, OC. The Hornets are hosting the T-Wolves. So a Charlotte win helps you in both Tank efforts. So we're really pulling for this. This is another big one in the Tank race and the secondary Tank for the Utah Jazz. Remember, the Jazz have the T-Wolves first-round pick. Rudy Gobert missed last night's game against Philly, so he is questionable for tonight as well. He's missed the last handful of games. Randall is not on the injury report. He had missed a number of games recently. He's not on the injury report, so they will have Julius Randle. Hornets, let's pull off the upset tonight.
Let's go, Hornets.
Let's go.
Let's go, Charlotte. Let's go, Charlotte Hornets.
Let's go. Standings, Wizards 11-48, just 2.5 games ahead of the Hornets. That's as close as it's been for a long time in the Tank race. Hornets, who are 14-46. Jazz just behind them at 15-46. Pelicans, game and a half behind the Jazz at 17-45. 2 through 4 separated by 2 games. And just 4.5 games separate the 4 in the Tank race. It's as close as it's ever been, or it's close as it's been in a long time this year. Wizards starting to come back to the pack. They can get even closer to the rest of the pack if the Jazz can pull off the loss tonight.
If the Jazz can find it within their hearts to be as bad as possible.
Yes. Real quick, Cooper Flagg. Isaac Shade mentioned the night he had Monday night in their last game. Just wanted to give you the stat line. He was incredible.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing this for, guys. This is your Larry O'Brien trophy, Cooper Flagg. 28 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals in their blowout win Monday night. 10 of 16 overall from the field, 3 of 6 from 3 in his last home game at Duke. Huge game in Chapel Hill on Saturday. Another chance for him to show what he can do in a really pressure-packed environment before the tournament. In one of the best rivalries in all of sports, certainly college basketball. So that's the prize. He was incredible Monday night.
And that is your NBA Tank Race update, brought to you by James Peterson on the Sean O'Connell Show. Take a quick one here. We come back, checking in on the NFL offseason. Man, this thing is really ramped up. A lot of personnel decisions being made. We'll discuss all of them with Jeff Schwartz, longtime veteran of the league. That's next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 3 of the Sean O'Connell Show, checking in on things going on in the NFL. Personnel decisions being made all over the place, surprise cuts, contract extensions, big numbers being thrown around. We'll get to all of it with Jeff Schwartz, longtime veteran of the NFL, my former co-host on Pac-12 Today. Jeff, welcome to the show once again. How are you?
I am good. I went to Indy last week for the NFL
Jeff.
Combine. And
oh, there it is.
Oh,
There
you
you
got
go.
me?
Yeah, I got you. How are you?
Okay, I'm good. I was saying I came back from Indy last week. I was at the NFL Combine for a few days. And imagine Pac-12 Media Day, but 100 times better. That is the Combine. It is wild, buddy.
Better how?
Well, just the media days, there's just far less access to the coaches than you would expect to maybe have. The Pac-12 always did something really fun, which is they did basically a commissioner's dinner. And you got to talk to the coaches and network with them that night. But it was very minimal, right? I mean, it wasn't a lot of – it was a couple highs and shaking hands and whatnot, but it wasn't in-depth discussions about your team. Unless you went that direction. I mean, I would ask, Dan Lanning a couple questions. I'm sure you'd ask Whit a few things, but Mark Cristobal certainly liked to share offensive line film with me when we were at those dinners. But, it's not that intimate, and it's just one night at the combine, man. I mean, you just sit in a hotel lobby, and NFL personnel members just come by, and coaches come by, and everyone's just shaking hands and talking shop and drinking together. And I understand why after this week all the intel comes out, and of course there's lying season, right? People are lying and not telling the truth, but I see how the sausage is made now. I see why deals get done in Indy. I see why connections are made. I see why relationships are formed in this setting. It's unlike anything I'd ever been a part of.
Okay, so how many people elevated or hurt themselves based on these conversations, based on the testing? We know that certain teams care about the numbers. Certain teams just want to do the interview process, and the medical testing, of course, is massive.
Well, we don't know about the medical testing yet, right? So we don't know that. That's the thing that would drop a player many rounds is the medical testing, which we don't have a firm idea on until it leaks out or not. I mean, I would say that probably. I mean, no one really, I think, dropped or went up that much. I mean, half a round maybe. You know, a lot of talk about Tez Johnson, right? Orkin's wide receiver, who was 145 pounds and ran 4.51, but. You know, the point of the combine is exactly this, right? When you watch Tez Johnson play ball, does anyone actually catch him? Does anyone No. So, like, what does it matter if he runs a slow 40 in a setting in Indianapolis when he gets the football and no one catches him? So the point of the combine is to figure out why Tez Johnson didn't run fast, right? And to figure out, is that a film thing? Is that a preparation thing? Like, what's the reason for that? And that's what the combine is for. So go cross-check what you've seen on film, what notes you have on players. Of course, the mental, right? The interviews with the coaches certainly do matter. I was talking to a coach who's part of those. He writes a one sentence recap and then writes a longer something to have in the file for the player if they go back and sort of want to rehash the interview. Obviously, we saw on the quarterback side a lot of people talking about Shedeur Sanders interviews and whatnot. I mean, is it gonna, if someone likes Shedeur, are they not gonna like him anymore because he didn't interview well? I don't know. Maybe quarterback, it matters a lot more other positions, but I just don't think people generally hurt or help themselves that much. Of course, again, if you run faster than we think, and you go back and watch the film and figure out why that is. So certainly, front office are going back this week and trying to figure out why guys perform a certain way at the combine.
Okay, so based on conversations like that and based on testing that doesn't match up with on-film performance, how many people are actually going to be – that's the wrong way to say it. How many teams over-index on what they see from this athletic testing versus what they see on the film? Are there still teams in the NFL who do that?
I don't think so. Do you happen to catch Sean Payton talking about Bo Nix, by the way, at the combine? He said that at this time last year, Bo Nix was not on their radar to draft, but they watched him in the combine, the medical combine. They started watching more film. Now it's convenience to say that, right? Because they need they drafted Bo Nix and they needed a quarterback. I'm not sure he was their number one option. He just was there when they needed him, and he played well last season. But that's just more of a point of like, this is the beginning of the process, or you're right, the start of the process, right? There's pro days, there's top 30 visits, there's background checks, there's medicals, there's all these things that are going to change or could change the grade of a certain player. So you might come into the combine thinking, I'll use an example like Ashton Genty's number one, running back. You might leave thinking Hampton, the kid from North Carolina. I mean, like, it's certainly possible. So things can change like that sometimes. But it's a small part of entire profile of the athletes, the combine experience.
I've been looking at the latest mock drafts that have come out after the scouting combine, and obviously those are guesstimates for the most part. It's basically 3 first-rounders from the Big 12 Conference. 2 of those from Colorado, and Tetro McMillan being the other one. How big a problem is that for the Big 12?
So 3 Pac-12 guys.
Correct. How big a problem is that for the Big 12?
Look, I mean, Pac-12 has had years where no one was drafted too. So I mean, the first round. I mean, I think it does show a sign of just, the lack of, I guess, difference makers, in the conference. It's only 32 picks, by the way, right? But the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have a lot of those, and there's a reason for that, right? They recruit different players. Look, people might not like the 24/7s and the rivals and whatnot rankings of these high school players, Sean, but a lot of the guys drafted in April, first round, are going to be 5-star kids. Like you gotta recruit those players. Those are the players that end up being those first-round picks. And I'm not sure it's that terrible of an indictment on the Big 12. They could be young at certain positions, and again, if you drafted 33rd versus 32nd, is that really an indictment on the conference? I don't think it is. But it's just they don't have a lot of the upper echelon pro talent right now in the conference.
Jeff Schwartz, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking about the NFL Scouting Combine, the fallout from the NFL Scouting Combine. What happened with Shedeur at the Combine?
As far as why he didn't work out?
Well, no. We knew he wasn't going to work out, but, going into the Combine, a lot of the conversation was like, hey, him and Cam Ward might be neck and neck here. All the mock drafts kind of reflected that. And now – the rumor is there wasn't a lot of great interview feedback, and maybe he's more of like a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guy instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4 guy.
Yeah, I mean, we experienced that a little bit at Pac-12 Media Day a couple years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I think there are teams that are going to like him and teams that don't like him. I don't think there's going to be much middle ground here, Sean. And maybe the teams that don't like him are just the ones that aren't going to draft him, so they're able to just tell reporters and whatnot, we don't like him. His attitude, which is fine, by the way. There's nothing wrong with his attitude, but I think that there's just teams that are not going to like it as much as. Again, it's not attitude is the wrong word to use because he doesn't really have an attitude, but just maybe his personality sometimes, his upbringing, like those is bad as it is to say, and I really do think the NFL is way too stuck up in their thinking about how kids grow up. I mean, Deion Sanders even said this when he got to Colorado, right? Like, you want defense linemen with no parents, right? Like single family homes, tough upbringing. Like, I mean, the NFL thinks like this, right? And I'm not sure it's the right way to think, but I think that who he is as a player, his dad, his personality, his style, the show me the watch celebration, like that's all going to factor in here because he is not the best talent that we've ever seen that position. And when you're not the best player ever, people will really look into everything else and try to find ways to scrutinize. Like there was no, of course Andrew Luck went through a process of scrutinization, but like everyone knew he was a good football player. Like it didn't really matter what they found out. They weren't going to harp too much on the negatives. I think that again, people will look at that, look at Sanders and try to find everything negative about him. And I'm not sure it's fair. I think he's a fine kid. Nothing. I'm not unworried about those things. I'm more worried about things I see on film than I am about his upbringing and who his dad is.
Okay, switching to people who are already established as NFL players, we'll let the draft play out and maybe look back at combine results and compare and contrast based on that. Some big numbers been thrown around these last couple of days.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley is going to be averaging more than $20 million a year as a running back. The infamously devalued running back position is only devalued for developing teams, I guess.
Yeah.
Is this a good contract?
I saw a chart that said Saquon Barkley's contract number next to your contract number. It was very similar. I was very impressed. I didn't realize you made that much money doing radio in Utah.
That's right. I'm averaging just under $20 million a year.
Oh, jeez, I knew I should have followed you when you asked me. I thought about like, what if I just beg Sean to be his co-host? What would we be doing every day?
Then James would have to teach you how to produce and run the board. But yes,
the thing about it is there's so many times throughout my day that I think man, this would have been a great story on our show. It was just my family doing crazy stuff, but nonetheless,
we're just going to do a podcast about your crazy family.
Yeah. My wife's at the beach right now. We got a place at the beach, and she might never come home. Actually, I put it at 15%. I'd never see her again. She's been there since Monday. She's not coming home tonight, I don't think. She's supposed to come home tonight. She's like, oh, you can handle the kids, right? I don't think she's ever coming back. my cousin who's with her, like, or her cousin sent me a picture of Meredith last night, and there's just no explanation. You just can't explain her to anybody. Just her life. It's unexplainable. To about 4 people know who she really is. You're one of the 4. Never met her before, but you know exactly what she's like. Look, Saquon's really interesting to me because he has forced me, and along with Christian McCaffrey to some extent, Derrick Henry a little bit, but Derrick Henry's not making a lot of money. He only made $9 million this past season. I have a new stance on paying running backs, Sean. You ready? And I think it's okay to change your stance with new evidence, right? And people get so upset on social media. That wasn't what you said last year. Well, I have new evidence now. I have a new thought. It's okay to change your mind. I think when you have all the pieces in place, offensive line, quarterback, wide receiver, we have seen the impact that explosive running back can have for your offense. And I think it's well worth the money to pay Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. Now, at the expense of other positions that you need, like if you don't have a good offensive line, it doesn't matter how much you pay your running back. It's not going to matter. Like Saquon Barkley is way more valuable as a Eagle than as a New York Giant, right? Like the Giants, they could not use him correctly. They couldn't get the most out of him because the pieces around him aren't ready. And the Eagles, again, everything around him was ready for Saquon Barkley. So that to me is the important part here. It's not that, you know, the running backs are getting paid all of a sudden. Like maybe this helps out, but other players. But I think it just works out perfect because the pieces are around, and Saquon Barkley was like the last piece in offense.
And I guess the balance for GMs and coaches who actually get feedback with their GMs would be striking that balance of knowing, like, okay, we have this offensive line group that is going to be intact for at least another couple of years. So now is the time to strike on that final piece, on that big-time difference maker. And I guess, I mean, not that many teams are able to do it, Jeff.
No, they're not, and that's why the best are at the top there. But again, you have to, there's a lot of talk about the Raiders drafting a running back, and Genti essentially at 6 because supposedly I guess Shedeur is falling on the draft board. And I think to myself, okay, well your offensive line is not settled. You have Colton Miller and JPJ, not great offensive line. No wide receivers. You have Brock Bowers and Meyer, who might be traded. No quarterback right now. Like Aiden O'Connell's only guy on roster. That Gardner Minshew was released today. How does that help your team get any better, Sean? Like I get it. Jensen's a great player, and he played with a Boise State offensive line that is not not a bunch of NFL guys and whatnot. But he also played against Mountain West defenses, right? Like how in 3 years is your team that much better because you have Genti on your team? Like always the Raiders that you draft the best player available. Maybe it is Genti. Maybe he's the best player available. But you need pass rush alongside Crosby and Wilkins. You need offensive line help. You need wide receiver. You just need so many other positions that I'm not sure taking him at 6 is worth it. So I think it just depends on your situation and what your plan for the running back is, what you have around the running back, what does your quarterback need. Because again, you like the Chiefs, for example, they actually need a running back now. Like it's getting to the point where the lack of explosive play from the running back is a hindrance to the offense. It just depends on where you're at. And I'm not sure every team's the same, Sean. So I can't just say like running back is back and you should always take one. I think it's very team specific.
Jeff Schwartz for another few minutes here talking about how to solve the problems for every NFL team. You just mentioned him, and he's in the news today because Max Crosby is now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. $100+ million for a 3-year deal, $33 million per year average, a lot of guaranteed money here. And Crosby had a good year last year before he hurt his ankle. Is this a good contract, Jeff?
He plays every snap. I think I saw that he played like 470 snaps in a row to end the season, which is kind of crazy for a defensive lineman. And look, Sean, when you have a new GM, which they have their new head coach and Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly's there as well, I think you have to keep guys like Max Crosby because he is a heck of an effort player, right? He's a production player. He's like the heartbeat of your team right now. He's a veteran. The guys look up to him. Like, you have to keep those guys around. If you want to build like that culture that I'm sure Pete Carroll wants to build, Max Crosby is the perfect player to start with. So I think he's worth every cent. And look, the way this works sometimes with these contracts is that you do sort of get paid on past production. Teams are hoping that the future production is the same. It's not always the case in every signing, but he's been the heartbeat of that team, and the team hasn't been great, but he's been freaking great, man. He's a great football player, so it makes a lot of sense why they would re-sign a core player like that.
More quarterback pressures than anybody in the league since his rookie year.
It's fantastic.
According to ESPN research, 324 quarterback pressures since his rookie season in 2019. That's 40 more than the next closest guy, who is Nick Bosa, and then Myles Garrett right after that. On top of this, what I need to know about Max Crosby, I saw a picture of him from the Combine while I was watching the Combine. You know, Max Crosby at the Combine had not a stitch of ink on his body.
Oh, yeah, he's gotten big. He's like super tatted, yeah.
He's all the way slung out. He's like all the way up. The only thing that's not fully tattooed on Max Crosby now is his face. All the way up to his jawline on his neck, down to his fingertips. That all happened in the last 6 years. That takes a lot of time under the gun, man. That is, he must just like go to football practice and then sit down with tattoo artists. That's all he does in his life, I think.
Yeah, he's got so many of them. Oh, here's the video of him at the Combine. Oh, wow, yeah. He had 0.
It's so wild. He looks like a little kid because it's like
does he have like different? Is it all black and white, or he's got color tattoos too?
No, he's as far as I know, he's just black and gray.
Is there like a prefer? Like, do people ever mix? Just like they typically just.
Certainly they do, but I don't think he has.
Oh, he has oh wow, yeah. Look at his tattoo. Wow, look at these. He's got a Jordan tattoo. That looks like his kid, maybe. A little Eastern Michigan on there. How do you come up with these ideas?
When you're that big of a tapestry, right? It just kind of all blends together. So you can start throwing in whatever you want. He could put a little Where's Waldo in there, and nobody would know.
He's got Muhammad Ali. It looks like Kobe. Yeah, it's Kobe. A rose, his number, some diamonds. They must put him under for this, right? For some of these.
I don't know. Dak Prescott did that. It's frowned upon. I don't know if Max Crosby
was it frowned upon because you shouldn't have propofol or whatever it's called without a doctor present.
Well, I think there's part of that, but also like in the industry, a lot of artists, like a lot of really high quality artists, are like, you got to suffer for your beauty kind of a thing.
So it's a vanity thing.
Well, tattoos are a vanity thing in the first place. So.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Did you suffer through yours?
Yeah, I've never had any.
Did it hurt?
I mean, it's not always super comfortable, but it's not like breaking your leg.
What was the longest you sat for a tattoo?
11 hours.
Yeah, that hard pass. I'll give you 11 minutes. That's all I'm giving you. You get 11 minutes to do my tattoo. Whatever you can do, 11 minutes. You sat for 11 hours?
Yeah.
What'd you do? You like order some DoorDash? You watch some TV? Like,
you get a lunch break. But
what?
You get a lunch break in there. It was 11 hours total.
Oh, wow. Hopefully it was worth it.
Yeah, it was great.
The one in the chest?
No, I never sat that long for the chest. It's not tattoo talk.
Well, I'm more interested in this. I heard you talking about the Jazz taking for Cooper Flagg. That's an exciting topic.
That is very exciting.
You gonna buy a Flagg jersey if you guys get him?
Of course.
You all in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Should be.
I do have to ask you about this because not only do you love the Chiefs, you love the Chiefs' offensive line very specifically, and the Bears are trading for Joe Thuney.
Yeah. So he is their all-pro left guard. Played left tackle last year when they needed him to because of the injuries on the offensive line and the lack of play. And look, this is a situation where you'd rather trade or get rid of a guy a year too early than a year too late. I actually thought they would get rid of Thuney last offseason. It was what I thought would happen because this is what good teams do. Is what the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill, right? It was sort of like, all right, a year too early, a year too late. He's making a lot of money, and they now obviously want to pay their right guard Trey Smith. You just can't have Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Juwan Taylor all signed. It's just you don't have money for that. And so from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense. For the Bears, it's a home run, man. I mean, you got a veteran like Joe Tooney in there. It's a great trade for them. She's just going to get younger. I think they're going to be 27 or younger for the most part for their entire offensive line, which is hugely important. They've drafted players. Kingsley's got to play now. I think Kingsley might have a chance to play left guard. He moved to left guard in the middle of the Chiefs season last year, so that might have precipitated a trade here. It was like, hey man, we'll give we want to try Kingsley at left guard this season. Maybe he is a left guard. He's only 22, man. Like we can't give up on a 22-year-old second round pick. That seems super early to do so. So I would imagine that he's the left guard now.
Where's Ronnie Stanley going to end up?
Good question. I mean, I think Chiefs fans would love him to play left tackle, but I think Ronnie just has to wait it out to see what veterans, or team I should say, needs veterans to pop up, because it doesn't feel like he's not getting a long-term deal anywhere. He's been too beat up. Does he chase a ring? Does he go somewhere to chase a ring? Do the Chiefs come calling? I think there's plenty of options for him. I don't know if there's a great team I have off the top of my head right now that is going to go and waive one of free agency for him.
Probably more importantly for the average football fan, where is Aaron Rodgers going to end up?
The McAfee show. He's going to have his own show, the Aaron Rodgers show. I mean, the Giants, probably the Giants, I think. They just don't have any quarterbacks right now. They really wanted Matt Stafford. You're not guaranteed to trade up to 1. You're not guaranteed to get a quarterback at 3 if the Browns go with a quarterback at 2 instead of Tennessee, right? 1-2, boom, boom. So I think the Giants, but his personality just does not fit the Giants, and so I'm curious if they just say we're so desperate because we're going to get fired. I don't care what Aaron Rodgers does, we'll sign him. But there could certainly be a situation where it's just his personality just doesn't fit what the New York Giants have wanted in their players.
What franchise does his personality fit with now that he's kind of, I mean, he's pretty focused on media opportunity, it seems, but an enigmatic personality. So who wants to take that on when you're talking about a 41-year-old quarterback?
The Raiders? I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I wonder how many teams will say, hey, man, no more McAfee, essentially, right? Just no more of that. We know the Jets told him that already. So good question, Sean, because also he's not a backup, so you can't sign him to be like a competition quarterback either. You sign him to be your starter, or you don't sign him at all. So I'm kind of curious, what if at all his words say and mean to NFL teams. They look a lot. I think there are some NFL teams that and personnel directors that share some of the beliefs that he does. I don't think it's not everyone, but it's not zero. So I don't know how much that really matters in the end. Can you play? Can you not play? And then also, do we have a spot for him?
What is the process? There's guys getting released right now, right?
Yeah.
And you're not in OTAs, right? You're not in the locker room with these guys every day. So what's like the protocol when you're on a roster and a guy gets released and you're not going to be teammates anymore? Like, does everyone send him an Instagram message with like crying smiley face emoji? Like, how does it work?
I mean, you just send him a text and be like, hey, man, like, that sucks. Good luck, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's hard this time of year. I got cut by the Giants this time of year and went up to do my physical and say goodbye, and no one was in the building because they were all out like at pro days. It's like I didn't even say bye to my coaches or nothing. It's just a weird time of year. I think that, if
cold.
it's your buddy, what?
It's cold. That you're just like they're in an empty building cleaning out your locker. That sucks.
Well, no, they just send you your stuff. I don't have to clean it out. I just like a package arrived at my house with my stuff. I think it actually arrived before I made it up to New York. I didn't make it up for like 3 weeks because it's just of schedule wise. It's a cold. I mean, think about the Joe Tooney thing. Joe Tooney just played left tackle for them, no complaints whatsoever, and they trade him. It's a cold world, man.
Yeah, competitive, crazy. Don't love it.
You have to. It's part of it, obviously. That it's just not going to be fair, and that as a player.
Okay, let me ask you if this would make sense. As you know, I've become the world's #1 hockey fan. And the NHL has a rule where if someone is injured and they're on IR effectively for the rest of the regular season, their salary comes off the cap.
Ooh, interesting.
So that the team can backfill.
Okay.
The NFL continues to increase its salary cap number. I think it's going up another $25 million, or what was that? What was the adjustment they're making?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Would the NFL ever look at something like this?
For injured players. Oh no. Well, okay. So once you get to, I think, a certain point of the season, you don't have to be under the cap. That makes sense.
Okay.
But I think you're well. You know what? Take that back. Let me think for a second, because 1 year the Giants had to cut someone to have cap room because they had so many guys hurt. You don't ever get to that point. I think, Sean. You don't really ever get to the point where you just don't have enough money to sign players during the season. I have always thought maybe you just exempt the quarterback from the salary cap, but salary cap is so high now that I don't think it matters anymore. It's going up so quickly. Just exempt him from the salary cap.
Can't hide the money. The NFL just keeps printing it. It's amazing.
You just can't. How's PFL going, buddy?
Good. We start up. My first show for the tournament this year is April 3rd, so just under a month away. It's going to be awesome.
Why don't you ever come to Charlotte? Do we not like fighting here?
You know what? People in Charlotte are too soft. They don't like fighting.
I'm not surprised on that. Do you know that? Okay, you have kids in school. Well, your daughter, your daughter's not in. Is she in elementary school yet? Kindergarten
she's
yet?
In kindergarten.
Okay. So I got an email last night, 7:24 p.m. School is canceled for today. Okay.
Oh, it's snowing again?
No. Too windy. Okay. That the wind gusts were projected to be too high for school buses to run in the morning.
What kind of open expanse are these school buses having to drive across? That they're
So
get blown over by
Mecklenburg County, where in the school district is the entire, any part of Charlotte, the entire city is one county, and it's huge. And so if one road is iced over, the whole city shuts, no school for anybody. One of those things. So the storm rolled through this morning. It came 8:10 to 8:17. 7 minutes of a little bit of wind. And you wouldn't even know it rained if you went outside right now. It's completely dry. The entire city's dry. It's been windy too, so it blew the rain off everything. To be fair, there was a tornado maybe 30 minutes south of me, but that's a different school district. They went to school actually, I think, and they had to go shelter in place. So, but we don't get tornadoes in Mecklenburg County ever. So, email 7:24 last night. Not even time to get any help. Just dude, the kids this morning, just a disaster. I was working with this morning, just screaming, dog barking at delivery people, a complete wreck this morning while my wife is vacationing on the beach.
Oh, I love it. I love that. You should live stream that, the Jeff Schwartz show.
What you guys don't have? What does a snow day look for you guys? What does a snow day have to be?
You have to get 2 feet of snow in order
in a day
to cancel for snow here. I mean, yeah, we're in the mountains. You can't be if it snows, you stop school.
Well, I know. I was there. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. I think we had a snow day when I was in elementary school one time.
We've had 3 days off this winter now. So for one day it didn't snow till after school was over. That was my favorite day of the year so far. Snow day. The other day there was maybe a quarter of snow the entire day, quarter inch of snow. And this morning, too windy for buses to run.
We're way over time. I got to let you go, buddy.
Okay. Talk to you next week.
Have a good
week, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jeff.
buddy.
Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran. We mostly talked about the NFL, but also about snow days, which I think we're out of the snow day realm in Salt Lake City this year, James.
I think you're dead on with your assessment that Charlotte residents are just soft because too windy.
Too windy for
buses.
The bus to
Oh,
go?
yeah. No school.
7 minutes of wind. It's like something from a comedy.
We had the tornado force winds in 2020 here that
That's
took
right.
down trees and stuff, but I
Right.
mean that wasn't a well, I guess it was off school day because there wasn't in-person school at that time.
It blew down 2 trees in my house.
Really?
Huge ones.
Yeah.
Like old growth pine trees that had been there for probably 50 years.
Yeah, it takes 100-mile-an-hour winds for it to be too windy for buses to run here.
That was
crazy.
a crazy day.
Crazy year. Obviously COVID, but we had the earthquake here and the wind hurricane thing. Like, insane.
The end times conspiracy theorists were getting a lot of fuel. All right, we got to take a break. An institution is going away at ESPN. We'll talk about whether or not this affects you. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, get your phone out right now. Put in this number, 801-839-4501. 801-839-4501. That is the number of Top Local Roofing. Our friend Justin Cunningham, the owner and proprietor of Top Local Roofing, wants to be your guy, wants to be your roof guy. If you're a homeowner, even if you're a renter, maybe you're a rental owner, at some point you are going to need a roof guy. 801-839-4501. You probably already need a roof guy. You're probably already experiencing some compromise of that roof. They'll come out, they'll bid it out, they'll design something to fix your problem. Maybe you need the full roof replacement. That's great. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're adding a little accessory dwelling onto the home. Maybe you have an addition. They can do literally anything. And more importantly, you can trust that the stuff done on top of your roof is going to protect everything inside of the house. So now you've got a roofing guy. 801-839-4501. Tell them that OC sent you at Top Local Roofing. James, we're going to give away some tickets here in about 10 minutes, but you saw this. I'm sure you saw this. Around the Horn's going away at ESPN.
Don't make me sad today, OC.
So this does make you sad.
I love around. Well, okay. Let me be completely honest. I have not been able to watch Around the Horn for a number of years now, so I can't say accurately that I still love Around the Horn. But this was growing up. This was It was 3:00 local time every day. So right after school, get home from school, watch Around the Horn, watch PTI. Watch 4:00 Sports Center, and then watch whatever games on that night. That was the routine. Loved Around the Woody Page, Stan Woody Page. I actually got to meet him one time, which was really cool. Yeah, me and some high school buddies, we took our post graduation trip to Denver. Just did a road trip to Denver, and super long drive from St. George, by the way.
That is long.
Yeah. So we drove the whole way, and we didn't have any kind of itinerary. We were going to a Rockies Red Sox game. That was it. So we were just wherever the wind takes us, we're going.
Love it.
And we just, I don't know if it was me or one of my other friends, big sports fans, we were like, should we go to Denver Post and see if we can meet Woody Page?
And so you did?
So we went there. Of course, they didn't let us past the front desk, but then they gave us a number of who usually schedules with some of their bigger talent. And the next day, not only we get to meet Woody Page, we got to sit in on a taping of him for Around the Horn.
Come on. That's
at
actually
the Denver
really cool.
Post. It was really cool. So, and so that was awesome. So he was probably my favorite growing up. And got to meet him. So, yeah, I was a huge Around the Horn fan growing up.
So I put a poll out going off the air in May, 23 years on the air. Where does Around the Horn rank for you in terms of best sports talk shows? 6% of people say that is number one. 32% say top 5. 16.5% say top 10. 45% of people say they don't like Around the Horn.
Don't like it. Yeah, and to be fair, maybe they're saying lately it's not as good as it was. But I
really like it because you're going to find somebody you agree with. You're going to find somebody you disagree with. You get the sports perspectives of 5 different people in an efficient and succinct manner,
and kind of fun too. Like they make it fun. Like the point. When reality gives them points for random reasons, it's almost like
you could never.
Whose line is it anyway? Where the points don't matter. He's just like, 5 points because
you could never give me the power that reality had on that show, where he gives points, he takes away points, and he can mute you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
incredible! The dream job.
I want that in my life.
Yes,
I just want that in like general life.
Yeah, that was good. You hear it was such an institution that the Dan Patrick Show makes fun of it every day. If anyone doesn't know, when they say bloop bloop, they're referring to Around the Horn.
That's right. So, man, that's a bummer. I'm a big fan of the show. I would put, I don't know if I'd say number 1, but certainly top 5 for me.
Yeah.
All 45% of you people who don't like it, grievance. Get out of here.
Yeah. What would be your other 4 if you had to say?
Okay, so
Because I came up with 4 others that I think are top 5. I voted top 5.
so SVP Sports Center
Okay.
is probably my favorite one. I think he does a phenomenal job. I do like PTI. I'd probably put PTI at 5.
All right. Yeah, I always liked Around the Horn more than PTI, but PTI was
Are we
another one of my
calling
favorites.
College Game Day a sports show, a sports talk show? Or
Yeah,
is that
'cause
too specific?
Because I would say Inside the NBA for me is a top 5. So you can put College Game Day.
Well, then Game Day is number 1 for me.
Okay.
So Game Day 1, Sports Center, SVP Sports Center 2. All right, I'm probably going to
And
put
then
Around the Horn at 3.
PTI and Around the Horn are in the
PTI
top 5.
PTI
maybe.
might get bumped.
Okay.
Honestly, if we're doing because Inside the NBA, if we're doing like a specialty show like Game Day, then Inside the NBA is probably 4, and maybe. Oh, you know what? Pat McAfee definitely is in the top 5 now
McAfee.
too.
Okay.
So, gosh, Dan Patrick. See, Dan
there's good
Patrick though is a
ones.
radio show to me, not a TV show. I know it's on
Yeah.
TV now, but Dan Patrick's a radio show to me.
Yeah.
And
So-
and Pat McAfee was not around as just a radio show. It's always been like a multimedia.
It's been a video show.
So
that could also work on radio if they wanted to.
McAfee is a TV show for me, and Dan Patrick is a radio show.
Okay.
For me. So that's probably my top 5.
Mine real quick, and Around the Horn's not number 1, and I don't know how I would rank these, but mine, and these are mostly what were my favorite growing up. Inside the NBA, Around the Horn, and PTI are in there, and then you're gonna laugh at one of these. I had SVP and Rosillo, which maybe that shouldn't count because that was more of a radio show, but they did simulcast it on TV like they do Dan Patrick's show. Awesome. One of the best talk shows ever. Sports talk shows ever. SVP and Rosillo before SVP started the Sports Center that you put in your top 5. And then this one you're going to laugh at. Sports Nation. Do you remember Sports Nation?
Oh yeah.
With Michelle Beadle and Cowherd. That was the best era of Sports Nation, the original one, by the way. Incredible, like, we're just going to have fun talking sports and trying to target high school students and 20-something-year-olds. I was just graduating high school, so I was right in that demographic when it came on. It immediately became my favorite show over Around the Horn and PTI, favorite afternoon show that ESPN had on. I love that First Take is not even a thought for us. Because a lot of people would say that's definitely a top 5 all-time show because it's the show of the moment. But no, it's nowhere near as good as any of the ones that we just mentioned.
Yeah, it's super bad and has always been kind of super bad. Don't like it. Don't like I mean, probably I am this way sometimes, but the direction that has pushed the sports media world of like the shock jock shouting into, I hate it all. All right, got to take a quick one. We'll come back, give away some Offspring tickets with a trivia question. Don't go anywhere. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Wrapping things up here on the Sean O'Connell Show by giving away some tickets, 877-353-0700. Topical trivia, tickets to The Offspring, Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater coming September 6th. Max Crosby, pass rusher for the Las Vegas Raiders, signed a new contract. 3 years and how many millions of dollars? 877-353-0700. If you have that answer, we will give you 2 Offspring tickets coming up in September to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Crosstalk today brought to you by our friends at Burt Brothers. Spring into savings. Get your car ready for the season with $69 tires, $50 off service tickets, $79 alignments with the purchase of 2 or more tires. Do not wait. These deals are not going to last forever. Stop by your nearest Burt Brothers today. Burt Brothers down here. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up next, and Spence is here in our Broadway studio. Hi.
How do you feel about aggressive group texts that go on and on and on, that you don't really need to read or you don't really need to participate in? How do you feel about that?
This is a very timely question for you to ask me because I think I've mentioned to you I'm involved in the UFC fighter settlement that is happening.
Yep.
Someone on WhatsApp put together a group thread for every fighter involved in the 1,200 fighter settlement.
So you have a text thread with 1,200 people.
1,200 people have been invited to it, and like 800 people are actually on it.
Oh, brutal.
So I, needless to say, muted the notifications on this thing. But when I check back in, I try to do it about once a week to see if there's any relevant information that I need to. I got to scroll through hundreds of messages, and it won't surprise you to know that some fighters are very put together, very articulate, intelligent people, and some of them are feral wild animals.
Sure, yeah.
From like the gypsy colonies of Ireland that just are typing out things that make absolutely no sense. So you got to filter through all of it.
It's highly obnoxious. I tapped out of an extended family text thread after a couple of my cousins were trying to sell crypto and take my aunt's Social Security, checks to, support their crypto farm. I'm like, I'm not participating in this. Okay.
Okay. All right.
But
you don't want to be wealthy, bro?
Bitcoin, baby. It's the future. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, if you're trying to convince my poor 82-year-old aunt to essentially share her Social Security to build your farm, I'm not going to be part of it. I'm just on way too many aggressively long group threads. They never have anything that I need to know about. And I'm constantly getting my phone blown up, and I look at it, and it just puts me in a bad mood. So I just wonder if I'm the only one.
No, you're not the only one.
Okay, good.
And
good to have company.
I actually, we'll run this poll tomorrow. James, remind me we're running this poll tomorrow. I want to ask my listeners from today till tomorrow, how many of you have opted out of the family group text thread, especially with the in-laws? Because I guarantee it's close to 100%.
Oh, for sure. And keep in mind, I have 70 billion cousins. I don't have like 5 cousins.
Yeah.
I think I literally have like 75 cousins on one side.
That's a lot of cousins.
And like 54 on the other. And anyone that's old enough to have a phone is on the thread. And I love y'all, but I don't need to know that you're enjoying a mint Milano cookie today. Like I've got stuff to do.
Milano cookies are trash.
They are, and I don't need to know you're eating one. It does nothing for me except use up my phone and my emotional bandwidth. But anyway, how's the show, Sean?
It was a phenomenal show.
There you
Radio
go. Love it.
Gold as always.
Love it.
I
know.
Maybe platinum.
Well, look, I know what the Sean O'Connell Show is. You don't have to tell me, a loyal listener.
Yes, you do. What's coming up on the drive?
Latest on the Utah coaching search. All signs still point towards Alex. I feel like it's imminent, probably in the next 48 hours or so. We'll talk last night. BYU, my goodness, that was a massive win in a really tough place to play. I don't know Dallin Hall could jump off of 2 feet and catch an alley-oop like that.
It was pretty sick.
It was. And then senior night for the Utes. Jazz played tonight. Utah Hockey Club. RSL's in action over the weekend. And then a little Bay Hill. I'm going to be down at the Bay Hill Arnold Palmer Golf Tournament this weekend, so we'll do a little golf. Excited for that.
You know, we had Kevin Young on the show today.
I saw that. Very
and
nice.
We had Bear Tournier on the show today.
Very
and
nice.
I grant you permission to just, together those are about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Just tap out for 45 minutes.
You know what? I am always looking to tap out as much as possible.
Text messages.
I will re-rack an entire show if I'm allowed. So let's do this, Sean. Thank you, buddy.
Oh, stay tuned for the drive. Thanks for listening. And again, thank you to Kevin Young, Bear Tournier, Jeff Schwartz, Scott Mitchell, everyone who joined me on the show today. Thank you for listening. Let's do it again tomorrow. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.